Chapter 1189. So what if he was a fifth-grade sovereign? Li Zhongjiu was frightened, but not Li Zhongjiu. He had seen all kinds of people in his previous life. Emperor Xingyan's strength was only on par with Wu Tian's. When Li Zhongjiu killed Wu Tian, he had not even broken through yet. Li Zhongjiu had already broken through to the Supreme Being realm. It would be easy for him to deal with Emperor Xingyan. It was a pity that Emperor Xingyan was still confident. Across the entire Xingwu continent, there were only a few people who had reached a high level of cultivation like him. Therefore, Emperor Xingyan was quite confident. He held the 9-5 Supreme Sword in his hand. There was a 5-clawed golden dragon engraved on the sword. When he channeled his energy, the golden dragon immediately soared into the sky. So you have obtained the secret of the Golden Star Palace. Li Zhongjiu looked at Emperor Xingyan's mental cultivation method and realized why this old man could break through to the Supreme Being realm. The Golden Star Palace. It was one of the 5 great sects in ancient times. For example, the 14th prince had obtained the inheritance of the Saturn Palace. However, the 14th prince did not dare to use it too much for his cultivation. Therefore, his strength did not increase quickly. Li Zhongjiu was surprised that Emperor Xingyan had also obtained the inheritance of the Saturn Palace. You know about the Golden Star Palace? Looks like your teacher is not bad. Cut the crap. Li Zhongjiu raised his sword. A gust of wind immediately blew in the imperial city. The wind was as cold as a knife. A cold light flashed in Emperor Xingyan's eyes. The golden dragon under the sword in his hand soared into the sky and bit forward. The people who were lucky enough to survive in the imperial city all turned pale with fright when they sensed the gathering of this aura. Take the princess away. The Vermilion Bird Army wanted to find Captain Su Mo, but they couldn't find him anywhere. Now that the situation was critical, they didn't know what was going on. It seemed like someone had come to attack the imperial city. How could they allow such a vile thing to happen? However, before Su Mo left, he specifically told them not to take even half a step out of the courtyard. They had to protect the princess at all costs. Immediately, the Suzaku army was divided. You can't. Before the chief left, he said that you can't leave the courtyard at all. Impudent. Now that the chief isn't here, I'll take command. A woman wearing a red feathered helmet shouted angrily before turning to look at the remaining Vermilion Bird soldiers in the courtyard. Make your own choice. Do you want to stay here and wait for death, or do you want to protect the princess? The Vermilion Bird army under his command also became quite hesitant. Now, the imperial city was on fire and disasters were happening one after another. Su Mo, on the other hand, was nowhere to be seen. Most of the Vermilion Bird soldiers were standing behind him. This woman had suffered defeat at Su Mo's hands, but she wasn't willing to accept it. She wanted to make a comeback. Now was such a good opportunity. Not only could she make a contribution, but she could also accuse Su Mo of dereliction of duty. Even so, Su Mo's 5 personal guards were completely loyal to him. Now that Su Mo wasn't here, they naturally had to follow orders. How could they let such a thing happen? Who dares? Those who kidnap the princess will be killed without mercy. There were only 5 Vermilion Bird soldiers on each side. They held the Vermilion Blade in their left hand and the Vermilion Bird Divine Crossbow in their right. Their defensive posture was very strict and their intent to fight was very clear. A great battle was about to break out at any moment. The imperial city was still burning with flames, but such a scene was happening here. How dare you? How dare you openly rebel and defy military orders? The vice chief swept his gaze over the 5 people in front of him. Take them down. The battle was about to break out at any moment. Both sides were in a tense state. This was because once they started fighting, there would definitely be casualties between them. However, no one wanted to kill their own people. Impudent. Suddenly, a furious woman's voice rang out. The surrounding people were all stunned. The vice chief's body trembled. Just as he turned around, he saw the shadow of a hand swing down. Slap! With a slap, the man's head was knocked askew, and the helmet on his head was sent flying. You sinful thing, how dare you cause trouble at a time like this? Greetings, Vice Chief Su. The Vermilion Bird Army all knelt down. Although the vice chief had a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth after being slapped, he didn't dare cause any more trouble. He could only kneel down and admit his mistake. What are you all standing around for? Where's the princess? Su Mo said coldly. Then 2 Vermilion Bird soldiers rushed forward. However, even after searching through the entire building, they couldn't find any trace of the princess. Not good, the princess is missing. Hearing this news, Su Mo's eyes immediately lit up with fire. Trash, chase after her. Yes. The Vermilion Bird Army began to move within the Imperial City. Outside the city, a group of 7 Dragon Guard soldiers. However, they were stopped by 5 figures, trapping the 7 of them outside the Imperial City. Be careful, the enemy's whereabouts are mysterious. Their attacks are swift and ruthless. The situation in the Imperial City is critical. Send 2 people to rescue them. Long Ma, Long Ing, you 2 go to the Imperial City. The rest of you, cover them. Immediately, 2 of the 7 Dragon Guard soldiers separated and quickly charged toward the Imperial City. Immediately, several rays of dark light shot out from the darkness. These people were very fast and very strong. If they didn't defend carefully, they would be easily injured by the enemy. Some of them were injured by the enemy. These people must be top-notch assassins. They were very powerful. They didn't expect so many top-notch assassins to sneak into the Imperial City. The 4 top-notch assassins were stopped by the enemy. Palace Master Yun Qi saw this scene from the side. She also frowned. The current situation was so big that she wasn't prepared at all. However, Palace Master Yun Qi knew what she had to do. No, Palace Master Yun Qi had already become the Pavilion Master of Zishuan Court. With the help of the White Deer Mansion and Palace Master Yun Qi's own strength, she quickly took in the remaining soldiers. As for the other enemy, she had already quietly taken care of him. Li Zongjiu, what are you doing? Although Zishuan Court wasn't part of the White Deer Mansion, Yun Qi Palace owed Li Zongjiu a huge favor. Naturally, she had to repay all these favors. Yun Qi didn't want to owe such a big favor. Moreover, such a good opportunity to help the White Deer Mansion was actually very rare. Because of the influence of the White Deer Mansion, Zishuan Court also had some status in the city. At least now, people would know what they said. Yun Qi's mission today was to deal with these Dragon Guard soldiers. However, there were still 2 people who escaped and charged toward the Imperial City. At the top of the Imperial Palace, the aura of cultivators gathered. The fortune from all directions also supported the 2 people in the sky. Golden destruction cut. The sword in Emperor Xingyan's hand shone with golden light. At this moment, the dark clouds in the sky were completely cut apart and retreated several hundred feet. Chapter 1190. It was the metal elemental energy that came from everything in the universe. All of it gathered around Emperor Xingyan. With a furious roar, the sword in his hand immediately slashed towards Li Zongjiu. Insignificant skill. Above the unparalleled sword, an unparalleled sharpness swept out. The 2 enormous sword auras collided. A bright light exploded in the sky above the sacred flame royal city. A terrifying wave spread across the entire sky. The power of vibration sent the 2 Dragon Guard, who were approaching the royal city, flying. What a powerful wave! The battle magnetic field has been established. We can't get close. If we get close, we'll definitely be killed by this power. Longying and Nangong Wuji were forced to work together to resist the wave. The experts from the Imperial Hall had also retreated outside the walls of the royal city. Nangong Wuji also commanded these people to use their elemental energy to block the wave to prevent the aftermath of the battle from destroying the entire Sacred Flame royal city. You're courting death. Emperor Shengyan attacked with his sword. The power of golden light filled the sky. The tip of the sword carried a terrifying golden light as it pierced towards Li Zongjiu. The speed was so fast that it seemed like he had used 10,000 swords in a single breath. However, Li Zongjiu was extremely calm. The number of times he used the unparalleled sword in his hand was very few. However, every time he used the sword, it was enough to stop Emperor Shengyan's swordsmanship. As a result, Emperor Shengyan had not even used a complete set of swordsmanship until now. The commotion caused by the battle had already alarmed all the experts in the city. Everyone leaped onto the roofs of their homes. At such a critical moment, they did not dare to leave their homes. They had to do their best to stay behind and protect themselves. Who knew what would happen tonight? The intelligence personnel in various places had already broken their legs from running around. What happened today was truly a big deal. Emperor Shengyan actually fought with someone. At this moment, the person who was releasing his divine aura in the sky was Emperor Shengyan. Everyone in the city could see him clearly. At this moment, the golden light on Emperor Shengyan's body pierced people's hearts. It was extremely terrifying. Everyone could feel the light radiating from Emperor Shengyan's body like the scorching sun. Under the illumination of such light, any darkness and any enemy would be reduced to nothing. In fact, Emperor Shengyan had personally made a move in the imperial city. This showed that he wanted to show off his strength. However, there was another reason. It showed that his opponent was too strong. Therefore, Emperor Shengyan was forced to take action personally. In other words, there was only one person in the entire Shengyan dynasty who dared to attack Emperor Shengyan. The national protector, Li Zongjiu. In the Haiku dynasty, Li Zongjiu also had another name. Evil Lord. Evil Lord Li Zongjiu. Against the emperor of the Shengyan dynasty. This battle could even be described as shocking and earth-shattering. The tremors from the battle almost shattered the earth and collapsed the sky. Almost everyone who had eyes wanted to watch this battle of unprecedented proportions. However, in front of everyone's eyes, the figure that was originally shining with golden light suddenly stopped. The light was no longer there. At the same time, a sharp aura descended from the sky and landed on the ground. It directly split a road in the Sacred Flame Imperial City into two halves, widening the road again. The crack ran through half of the city. Some of the buildings in the middle of the road were also easily split into two halves. There was also a sword within the sword chi that was descending. It was a huge sword that was shining with golden light. The 9-5 Supreme Sword. Some people went forward to investigate and found that this sword was Emperor Shengyan's sword. It was also one of the national treasures of the Shengyan dynasty. But now, he was sent flying by a single sword strike. In the sky, the height of the two people had risen to a state of nothingness. My hand. Emperor Shengyan's left hand covered the severed part of his right hand and immediately roared in pain. His whole body trembled. It was not because of the pain of having his hand chopped off by Li Zongjiu, but because he was defeated by Li Zongjiu. You are, the King of Fire. There was a fiery red figure beside Li Zongjiu. Ever since this fiery red figure appeared, Li Zongjiu's combat power increased greatly. Just now, he had chopped off his hand with a sword. The 9-5 Supreme Sword had just fallen from the sky. With such power, it easily cut a huge crack in the Sacred Flame Imperial City. The King of Fire hovered beside Li Zongjiu. The light on the unparalleled sword also showed that the King of Fire was the sword spirit of the unparalleled sword. Supreme. You are already a supreme. Why did you turn into a sword spirit? Emperor Shengyan felt that it was unbelievable. He had already reached the supreme realm, but now he still became the sword spirit of the divine sword. No wonder even his own sword was no match for Li Zongjiu's unparalleled sword. Soul Slash. Li Zongjiu threw out the soul-slash-flying knife that he had refined. Emperor Shengyan saw it and quickly retreated. Boom! Emperor Shengyan immediately retreated. However, the soul-slash-flying knife's speed was faster than expected. It directly entered Emperor Shengyan's body and shattered the original spirit in Emperor Shengyan's body. Emperor Shengyan had inherited the Golden Star Palace, and his original spirit came from the Golden Tiger Divine Beast of the Golden Star Palace. However, this Golden Tiger Divine Beast's fate was quite miserable. Emperor Shengyan spat out a mouthful of blood. Impossible! My original spirit! What did you do to me? When Emperor Shengyan pulled out the flying knife from his back, he was shocked when he saw the ancient seal on it. Li Zongjiu, listen to me. Don't kill me. Killing me won't do you any good. Seeing that Li Zongjiu had raised his sword, Sacred Flame Heavenly Emperor hurriedly exclaimed in horror. It had not been easy for him to cultivate to this level. Sacred Flame Heavenly Emperor truly did not wish to fall like this. Just a moment ago, he was still a brave and unrivaled man. In the blink of an eye, he almost knelt down to Li Zongjiu. Oh! You're begging for mercy so soon. I thought you were very stubborn. Li Zongjiu sneered. King of Fire turned and entered the unparalleled sword. King of Fire's current body could not be condensed for long, and his intelligence had not fully recovered, so he looked a little sluggish and slow. It was most important for him to stay in the unparalleled sword and get a good rest. I was wrong just now. It was my fault. I should not have threatened the Imperial Tutor's family. Please forgive me, Imperial Tutor. As he spoke, Emperor Shengyan also released a barrier. If people knew that the dignified Emperor Shengyan was kneeling and begging for mercy, what would happen? Therefore, Emperor Shengyan also needed to save face. Li Zongjiu directly slashed out with his sword. Whoosh! One of Emperor Shengyan's arms was sent flying. It was the right arm that had been cut off. Eat this pill and guard the courtyard of my White Deer Mansion in the future, and I will let you go. Chapter 1191. Li Zongjiu's words stunned Emperor Shengyan. Although Li Zongjiu had defeated him, there was no need for him to humiliate him. Li Zongjiu, I am the emperor of a dynasty after all. Emperor Shengyan was immediately enraged. You don't give me any face at all. At least, you should give some face to someone of the same level. Not anymore. As soon as Li Zongjiu finished speaking, he appeared in front of Emperor Shengyan. Obviously, Emperor Shengyan did not understand the current situation. Li Zongjiu punched Emperor Shengyan in the face. A terrifying force surged out and paralyzed half of Emperor Shengyan's face. Bang! Then, he kicked Emperor Shengyan's dantian to pieces. Emperor Shengyan fell from the sky. If he left his family's gate in the hands of such a person, Li Zongjiu would not be at ease. Sooner or later, he would destroy this guy. Immediately, Emperor Shengyan fell from the sky. However, with a loud bang, he smashed into a mountain outside the royal city. This mountain was directly flattened. Emperor Shengyan himself was probably not going to make it after such a violent fall. Moreover, his dantian was directly destroyed by Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu's figure returned to the Sacred Flame Royal City from a new place. You killed the great emperor. Two figures rushed out and surrounded Li Zongjiu from the front and back. They were Long Ying and Long Steed. Previously, when Li Zongjiu and Holy Flame Emperor were outside the imperial city, the magnetic field created by their battle had prevented them from approaching. Now that they saw Li Zongjiu appear unscathed, while Holy Flame Emperor was nowhere to be seen, they were shocked. He must have been killed by Li Zongjiu. As the Dragon Guard, he actually failed to fulfill his responsibility to protect the great emperor. To the Dragon Guard, he was simply letting down his ancestors and letting them down. Since he could not protect the great emperor, he should at least kill Li Zhongjiu and avenge the great emperor. Are you protecting the great emperor of the Shengyan dynasty, or are you protecting that person? Li Zhongjiu glanced at the two young children in front of him. Dragon Guard's people were indeed quite talented. However, the only disadvantage was that these people could not be recruited by others. Originally, Li Zhongjiu wanted to simply eliminate these people. The reason why he let those people go was because they really couldn't pose any threat to Li Zhongjiu. But these people were not the same. If they were allowed to grow, there might be one or two people who could pose a threat to him. Dragon Guard will naturally protect the royal family and the great emperor. Alright then, come find me tomorrow. As he spoke, Li Zhongjiu flicked his finger and sent the two of them flying tens of thousands of meters away. Moreover, their own Yuanli was also sealed by the other party. The two of them fell to the ground and rolled a few times on the ground, eating dirt all over their bodies. Damn it, I'm going to fight it out with him. After Long Ying got up, he was furious. He wanted nothing more than to tear that brat into pieces. However, he realized that the Yuanli in his body had been sealed in his dantian. Oh no, my Yuanli has been sealed. Mine has been sealed too. This person can fight with the great emperor and even kill him. His strength is naturally not something we can compare to. After the dragon steed got up, he sat back down on the ground helplessly. Just now, if Li Zhongjiu wanted to kill them, he could easily take their lives with just a flick of his finger. The two of them were not on the same level at all. Why are you sitting here? Hurry up and return to the city. We can't go back. This place is a full 500 miles away from the royal city. Without cultivation, it will take at least 2 days to walk back by foot. The dragon steed also chose to give up. The Yuanli that he had painstakingly cultivated for 20 years was actually sealed by the other party with just a flick of his finger. Now, any 3 or 4 experts would probably be able to defeat the two of them. Of course, this did not include the life-saving items in his hands. If he counted these life-saving items, it would be enough to guarantee his own safety. Damn it, is that guy a god? Naturally, Long Ying was very unhappy. And extremely unhappy. Moreover, he knew that this Li Zhongjiu was the one who forced the unparalleled Sword Emperor to leave. Now, it seemed that the unparalleled Sword Emperor and the others left quickly. If they were a little later, they probably would not be able to return. What did he mean by waiting for tomorrow just now? The dragon steed's focus was on what Li Zhongjiu said just now. Li Zhongjiu could even kill the great emperor, so killing a few dragon guard like them was naturally nothing. However, Li Zhongjiu did not kill them. Instead, he sealed their Yuanli and sent them hundreds of miles away. The two of them considered this carefully, and then their eyes were filled with shock. This is bad. He wants to change the emperor. When the two of them guessed this matter, they were completely shocked. They had never seen such a savage villain. He actually wanted to take control of the Shengyan dynasty. But even if they knew such a thing, the two of them were powerless. In the royal palace, the war master looked at the ruined royal palace. This was the true wrath of a supreme martial artist. It was completely unimaginable. When Li Zhongjiu was angry, he would completely explode. This was the result of angering Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu destroyed the royal palace. There were no signs, and no preparations were needed. He allowed you to stay in the royal palace because he was too lazy to bother with you. How do we clean up this mess? The war master sighed helplessly. At the same time, he knew that the entire Shengyan dynasty was now under the control of Li Zhongjiu. If Li Zhongjiu wanted to stay in the royal palace, then the entire Shengyan dynasty might be plunged into chaos. Naturally, someone will do this kind of thing. Li Zhongjiu looked in a direction. As expected, someone walked in with his personal guards. And Kuan Erisher was among this group of people. Boss. Kuan Erisher was excited when he saw Li Zongjio. He almost rushed up to Li Zongjio to give him a hug, but Li Zongjio kicked him away. Lie down on the ground. Master. The person bowed in front of Li Zongjio. The war master was surprised when he saw this. He did not expect the final winner to be the 14th prince. Sure enough, he hid his strength well and didn't reveal his true strength. This is the person who ordered Marshal Uncle Kuan Erisher to be locked up. The 14th prince moved. Then, a few soldiers grabbed a person. It was the vice commander of the Imperial Guards, Zhang Hu. Zhang Hu was tied up and kneeling on the ground. Zhang Hu was in a state of shock when he saw the earth-shattering changes in the royal palace. He could not believe his eyes. Spare me, Your Highness. Imperial tutor, spare me. Please spare me, Zhang Hu kowtowed and apologized. Li Zongjio glanced at Zhang Hu. Speak. 14th prince kicked Zhang Hu's body. It's me. It's me who ordered the imprisonment of the young city lord. I deserve to die, I deserve to die. This was Zhang Hu's idea. He knew that the Emperor Xingyan did not like Kuan Erisher, so he simply showed his intelligence here. So, he ordered Kuan Erisher to be locked up in the blood prison, so that he could ask for a reward from the Emperor Xingyan. Who knew that he would provoke the imperial tutor, Li Zongjio, and then the entire royal palace would be destroyed. It was terrifying. It was like the end of the world. The imperial family had been established for more than 300 years, but it had only been 6 hours from the moment it was destroyed. Perhaps even less than 6 hours had passed. No one knew how many experts had died tonight. Kuan Erisher did not say anything. He stepped forward and cut off Zhang Hu's head with his sword. Where's Shuiwei? Kuan Erisher looked around. Go and find her. When I came here, she should be protected by the Vermilion Bird Army. Li Zongjio said. Kuan Erisher immediately turned and ran toward Shuiyue's small courtyard. You can handle things here, right? Li Zongjio looked at the 14th prince. Today, the 14th prince was very happy. He never thought that it would be so easy for him to sit on the throne. With his master's help, almost all the problems were solved. Now, it was up to the 14th prince's own strength. Master, please don't worry. Leave things here to me. Well, your father doesn't seem to be dead yet. He was the one who smashed down just now. Find time to dig him out. The 14th prince originally thought that Li Zongjio had killed Emperor Xingyan. Although it would make things more troublesome, it could still be solved. However, the 14th prince did not expect Li Zongjio to spare Emperor Xingyan's life. This made things easier. Thank you, Master. Military Master, the royal palace still needs someone to protect it. Now that my father has been attacked by the Ten-Sword sect, we must suppress the Ten-Sword sect. Chapter 1192. The 14th prince threw the blame on the Ten-Sword sect with a single sentence. Li Zongjio naturally turned and left. The other two princes who wanted to fight for the throne were naturally left to the White Deer residence to deal with. After tonight, the situation in Monarch City would change as well. The military advisor looked at the change of power in front of him. He was shocked. He had been staying in the palace for a long time, so he hadn't seen much of the world. However, this was the first time he had seen such a thing. He reckoned that such a thing wouldn't happen in other places. It was unbelievable. However, to the military advisor, it did not matter who the emperor was. As long as the royal family of the Saint Flame Empire continued to maintain contact with the sect behind him and continued to obediently provide resources, it would not be a problem. It would be the same no matter who it was. Of course, the prerequisite was stability. If they had to switch every 2 or 3 days, the military advisor would not be able to withstand such a torment at his age. In any case, he had to stabilize the situation first before anything else. Hong Shisan and the others did not find Kun Erisher in the blood prison. Therefore, he simply tore down the entire blood prison. When they arrived at the palace again, they saw that it had basically become a pile of ruins. They all stared with their eyes wide open. Fuck, this is too fierce. At this moment, the people in the White Deer Mansion knew very well who would be in charge of the Shengyan dynasty from now on. Inside the city, countless people raised their heads and looked over. Song Jieyu looked at the burning palace and felt her heart being hammered once again. The fighting in the palace continued until now. Only then did the city guards slowly rush towards the palace. Although the safety of the palace was not under the control of the city guards, there was no guarantee that they would be able to get involved. However, it was obvious that the city guards did not want to help at all. Otherwise, they would not be in such a leisurely state. However, they had to move again. Otherwise, it would be bad for the city guards' image if they were seen by others. Yun Qi led the dragon guard trapped and rushed toward the palace. However, the situation was already decided. The dragon guard was like an idle person who was of no use. The 14th prince had already led the Xuanwu army to control the situation in the palace. The people of the 4 major clans could not help but look up at the sky. It felt as if the sky above the Sacred Flame Royal City had changed because of this. The sky above the Sacred Flame Imperial City is changing. The sky above the Sacred Flame Imperial City has changed. Many people saw Li Zongjiu, who had aggressively killed his way into the Sacred Flame Imperial City, walk out unscathed. Xiao Zhao in the White Deer Mansion heaved a sigh of relief when he received the news. At the same time, a smile gradually appeared on his face. As long as the young master was still around, everything was negotiable. There were still many people in the White Deer Mansion who were not qualified to participate in this battle, including Yi Tianshui, Leng Outyan, and the others. However, they had also received a lot of news about Li Zongjiu and what had happened in the palace tonight. Many of the top forces in the city, such as the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor and the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion, were not affected. This was because Li Zongjiu had not destroyed the Shengyan dynasty. It was just killing an emperor. Such a small matter was nothing. The other institutions of the dynasty were operating normally, because the 14th prince had already announced that he would take over everything in the palace. The 3rd prince and the 5th prince had also announced that they would withdraw from the court and would no longer interfere in court affairs. Some of the officials in the city widened their eyes when they heard the news. They also quickly sent people to investigate the situation. Furthermore, the 14th prince had dealt with these people without batting an eyelid. This made the officials of the imperial court tremble involuntarily. Previously, they had underestimated the 14th prince. No one had even considered the 14th prince's strength. Now, everyone in the imperial city knew that the White Deer Mansion was the backer of the 14th prince. It was equivalent to the imperial tutor, Li Zongjiu, standing behind the 14th prince. Who would dare to act recklessly? All of them were working under the 14th prince. However, this was also a benefit. After all, none of these ministers had ever stood against the 14th prince before. Or rather, all of them had stood against the 14th prince. Therefore, there was no need to worry. After all, the 14th prince would eradicate those who disagreed with him before he was born. This kind of thing was very easy to deal with. For these people, they cherished their lives even more. No one wanted to lose their lives just like that. It had not been easy for them to get to where they were today. However, there was one thing to take note of. No one knew what kind of temper the 14th prince had. If they accidentally offended him, they would probably be beheaded immediately. Therefore, they still needed to understand the temperament of the newly appointed emperor before they really did anything. If he was not the emperor, what else could he be? Li Zhongjiu did not return to the White Deer Mansion. Instead, he found Kun Erisher to search for Shueiyue together. However, after searching around, they still could not find her. "You still haven't found her?" Li Zhongjiu asked. Kun Erisher also shook his head helplessly. Suddenly, a large number of vermilion bird soldiers rushed out and surrounded Kun Erisher and Li Zhongjiu. Most of them did not recognize Li Zhongjiu. These people in the army only recognized the official tags. "Who are you people?" The vermilion bird soldiers surrounded the two of them and aimed their bows at Li Zhongjiu and Kun Erisher. "Put down your weapons," Suemo ordered. Suemo ordered as he walked out of the army. He looked at Li Zhongjiu with a complicated look in his eyes. He didn't even know what was going on right now. In her heart, she knew that Li Zhongjiu had killed Emperor Shengyan. Logically speaking, she was an army that protected the Shengyan dynasty. She should have fought Li Zhongjiu to the death. However, other than the fact that she could not defeat him, she also thought that Li Zhongjiu was her savior and friend. "Have you found the princess?" Suemo asked. The Vermilion Bird Army's duty was to find the princess, not to capture rebels. Even the Vermilion Bird Army had to obey military orders. "No. I've already searched the entire city, but I haven't found her." Kun Erisher nervously clenched his fists. Li Zhongjiu had also used his psychic energy to cover the entire city, but he had not found any trace of Shueiyue. This was truly strange. "Take me to the place where she first disappeared," Li Zhongjiu said. Although Suemo didn't know what Li Zhongjiu wanted to do, he still did as he was told. Fortunately, Li Zhongjiu had not destroyed the entire palace when he had barged into it. Moreover, the pavilion that belonged to the Watermoon Palace's palace master was not damaged in the slightest. After all, Li Zhongjiu had been here before, so he had paid a little attention when he arrived. "Our Vermilion Bird Army has a platoon here to protect the princess. There are 30 inside and outside, 50 patrolling, and 20 hidden sentries. With the princess's cultivation, it is impossible for her to leave without a trace." Although the Vermilion Bird Army was young, any one of them was capable of capturing Shueiyue. After all, the tempering and training they had undergone was not something a little princess could compare to. As for talent, everyone in the Vermilion Bird Army was exceptionally talented. This was because the Vermilion Bird Army was not as large as the other three trump card armies. Their main duty was to protect the princess. However, if they were needed to go into battle, there would naturally be no problem. They would be able to sweep through everything before the battle. Chapter 1193. If that's the case, then how can she not be seen? Kun Arashi's heart was also burning with anxiety. This matter was too strange. The Vermilion Bird soldiers who were in charge of guarding the room also said that they did not see the princess leave. Now, the ones in charge of guarding the palace were Wang Ding and his city guards. From the looks of it, after tonight, Wang Ding would be promoted from the city guard to the commander of the Imperial Guards, or even the commander of the Imperial Guards. Li Zhongjiu and the others naturally returned to the palace without any obstructions and arrived at the courtyard. "Everyone else is here. Don't wander around." Li Zhongjiu gestured for the others to stay where they were. Suemo brought Li Zhongjiu and Kun Erisher to Shueiyu's room. Logically speaking, the princess's room did not allow outsiders to enter, but now there were no such restrictions. When they walked into the room, they found that the surrounding windows were all tightly shut and everything was untouched. There was not the slightest bit of mess, and there was no sign of luggage being prepared or packed. It was obvious that Shueiyu did not want to leave. Li Zhongjiu saw some clues. He immediately raised his hand and saw that the elemental energy in the room was rapidly gathering. This energy was originally very weak and very fine, and could not be seen with the naked eye. However, under Li Zhongjiu's command, the elemental energy was continuously gathering. A magnificent scene appeared in front of his eyes. Boom! 3 lines formed by elemental energy appeared in front of them. This elemental energy belongs to Shui Yu. I recognize it. Koen Erisher said. He pointed at one of the lines that had a faint pink color. These 2 lines should belong to the Vermilion Bird Army. The 3 lines of elemental energy were like a flowing river of elemental energy. Although they were only as thin as a line, one could feel the surging energy on it. This was a kind of shrinking world. One could feel the surging energy on it. Because the 2 of them were guarding the door, their elemental energy fluctuations were weaker. There's one more. Li Zongjiu magnified one of the aqua moon energy, and the 3 of them immediately discovered an extremely weak gray yuan power aura. Clearly, there was another person in Shui Yu's room. He found this aura. Su Mo was also very surprised. Impossible, no one has come to visit during this period of time. Even the food was sent in by our Vermilion Bird Army. There shouldn't be anyone else in the house. Su Mo said. They're not your people. Li Zongjiu grasped the gray elemental force in his hand, but he realized that this force was quite ferocious. Although it seemed small, it was incomparably powerful. Just from the aura left behind, one could tell that this terrifying power was not below that of Li Zongjiu. Just as Li Zongjiu's elemental force came into contact with this gray energy, it was as if this energy was a ball of terrifying raging flames, instantly erupting and enveloping the 3 of them. However, it didn't injure the 3 of them. With Li Zongjiu present, it couldn't injure them. What is this? Koen Erisher asked. This is the message he left behind. Li Zongjiu said. This expert had clearly predicted that someone would be able to find this aura. Otherwise, he would not have left this message in the elemental energy and waited for Li Zongjiu to find him. Quickly look at what he said and what he left behind. The disappearance of the princess was a serious matter. If they did not handle it well, their entire Vermilion Bird Army would lose their heads. If they lost the princess, what kind of Vermilion Bird Army would they be? Therefore, Su Mo was also very nervous. Continue watching. Li Zongjiu said. However, the 3 of them were surrounded by flames, but the flames did not harm them at all. It was enough to see that the scene in front of them was constantly condensing. It seemed like they had passed through an endless ancient mountain range. They kept moving forward. From this perspective, it seemed like there were people flying through the clouds. They passed through endless mountains and rivers. Finally, the scene in front of them appeared. They were surrounded by fierce and majestic beasts. These beasts were huge. Just a swipe of their claws was enough to destroy mountains and rivers. The scene finally stopped at the top of a mountain. The mountain had already pierced through more than 10 layers of clouds. In the mountains above the clouds, there was a palace. At the entrance of the palace stood a figure with a blank expression on his face. Girl! Koen Erisher saw this figure and immediately called out. Princess! Su Mo could not help but shout, but it was useless. At this moment, Shui Yu was hundreds of thousands of miles away from them. The scene disappeared and the 3 of them returned to the room. What is that place? Why are there so many beasts? Koen Erisher could not wait to know where that place was. He wanted to find Shui Yu. However, in Su Mo's eyes, there was a trace of surprise and speculation. Could it be, that place is, the name of that place that Su Mo thought of had already shocked her. She did not even have the courage to say it out loud. For ordinary people, such a place was directly associated with death. Wilderness, Yunding Heavenly Palace. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. He did not keep them in suspense. From the looks of it, she must have been taken in by someone from the cloud-top Heavenly Palace. This is a good thing. She even left a message. If you want to find her, just remember the cloud-top Heavenly Palace. Wilderness. Koen Erisher was still unfamiliar with this term. However, Su Mo had heard of it. The wilderness is dangerous. Everyone has been there 5 times. Su Mo slowly said, the dynasty's 4 trump-card legions are formed once every 5 years. All of them are retired soldier kings who have gone in to explore, but no one has ever returned. It is the ultimate arena for training soldiers. Of course, it is also the graveyard of the soldier kings. Many people want to challenge it, but no one has ever succeeded. Hearing Su Mo's words, Koen Arashi's eyes widened. He was already thinking about how dangerous the wilderness was and what were his chances of survival. To enter the wilderness, you need to be at least a sovereign. To enter Yunding Heavenly Palace, you need to be at least a 6th grade sovereign. Li Zhongjiu said indifferently. He did not expect that there would be people from Yunding Heavenly Palace in Sacred Flame Royal City. Speaking of the Cloud Top Heavenly Palace, Li Zhongjiu had also fought with it in his previous life. Strictly speaking, these people had only established a sect in the wilderness. It was still within the sacred martial continent and did not even surpass the wilderness. There were indeed many experts in Yunding Heavenly Palace. Basically, as long as one was a sovereign, they would receive an invitation. Those who were chosen by them basically had the potential to break through to the sovereign realm. Chapter 1194. The Cloud Top Heavenly Palace is actually not that mysterious. If I hadn't fought with Emperor Xingyan just now, I would have definitely discovered this person. Li Zhongjiu said. Su Mo looked at Li Zhongjiu in surprise. The Untainted Land was the graveyard of their soldier kings. The Cloud Top Heavenly Palace in front of them was obviously built in the depths of the Untainted Land. How could such a sect be weak? However, Li Zhongjiu also said that one had to be at least a supreme master to enter the Untainted Land. This place was equivalent to a high-level map. If one were to sneak in, any random thing one would encounter would be a top existence. How could one resist? As for the Dao Soldier Kings team mentioned by Su Mo, it was estimated that they would have been killed by the meta beasts in the Untainted Land as soon as they entered. However, the Cloud Top Heavenly Palace's intention is to cultivate supreme masters. Since Shueiyue was chosen, it means that she has a chance to reach the supreme master realm. You don't need to worry about Shueiyue. You should worry about yourself. Li Zhongjiu said. Breaking through to the supreme master realm. Do I have that possibility? Koen Erisher didn't expect Shueiyue to get such a great opportunity. After all, that was breaking through to the Supreme Master realm. Their Koen castle did have a Supreme Master in the past. Otherwise, it wouldn't have formed such a powerful family. However, that was the strength of the ancestors. How could he reach that level? This made Koen Erisher very worried and anxious. The strongest people in the Cloud Top Heavenly Palace are only 2 9th-grade Supreme Masters. They haven't even reached the complete realm. It's nothing. With the power of the Koen in your body, it's not difficult to break through to the Supreme Master realm. However, if you want to activate the power of the Koen in your body, you have to go to a place. Li Zhongjiu said. If Li Zhongjiu personally guided Koen Erisher, it would be enough to help Koen Erisher break through to the Supreme Master realm in less than 200 years. However, that would take too long. Moreover, this kind of growth with the help of others was nothing. Only when one fully stimulated one's potential between life and death, could one be considered a real expert. Primordial World. Koen Erisher clenched his fists and squeezed out 2 words from between his teeth. However, Koen Arashi's eyes were filled with determination. He had to step into the Untainted Land. Only the pressure of the Untainted Land could fully stimulate the potential of his body. To Koen Erisher, this was the most important thing. Life and death didn't matter. If he couldn't see Shueiyue again in this life, then there wasn't much meaning in living. You want to go to the Untainted World? Are you crazy? Su Mo thought that he had already explained the dangers of the Untainted Land. Even the troops formed by the soldier kings of the past generations could not break out of the encirclement in the untainted land. None of them could even come back alive. With Kun Arashi's cultivation, he would definitely die if he went there. You can depart after 7 days. Li Zongjiu said faintly. Although Kun Arashir didn't know why Li Zongjiu wanted him to depart after 7 days, he reckoned that Li Zongjiu wanted him to at least calm down during this period of time. If he went there directly, he would most likely end up as a meal for the primordial beast. You can't go to the untainted land. Su Mo wanted to persuade them, but he realized that he couldn't persuade the two of them. Thank you for your kindness, General Su. If I can't find Shueyu, then there isn't much meaning in living. Kun Arashir said. Su Mo didn't understand the friendship between Kun Arashir and Princess Jingan. However, seeing that Kun Arashir was so affectionate towards Princess Jingan, he felt more or less reassured. At least the Shengyan dynasty's princess didn't look down on people. Get everyone to disperse. Li Zongjiu said. No one expected such a thing to happen. Emperor Shengyan was beaten up for no reason. Later on, Princess Jingan was taken away, and this old man didn't even know about it. It was simply stupid. The one who suffered the most was Emperor Shengyan. This vice-commander of the Imperial Guards took the initiative to imprison Kun Arashir and curry favor with Emperor Shengyan. However, he also angered Li Zongjiu. Without any explanation, he pulled Emperor Shengyan down from the throne. In the future, he would lose the entire dynasty. Moreover, Li Zongjiu crippled the latter's cultivation. He didn't have many years left to live. As for whether the 14th prince would listen to him, Li Zongjiu didn't care. If the 14th prince did not listen to him, even if he could deceive him, he would not be able to get past Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu would kill him in a matter of minutes. What could he do? Therefore, Li Zongjiu wasn't afraid of the 14th prince at all. Of course, today's battle had already made the 14th prince realize his position. If his strength didn't surpass Li Zongjiu, then he wouldn't be able to get rid of Li Zongjiu. Su Mo also reported this matter truthfully. She was taken away by a powerhouse. This was a good thing for the royal family. At least, when Shueyu returned, the Shengyan dynasty would have another powerhouse. After a busy night, dawn finally arrived. That night, many people couldn't sleep. On the second day, the 14th prince announced that he would be temporarily in charge of the imperial court. Because the sacred flame emperor was ill, he could not continue to manage the imperial court. In the imperial city, no one dared to object. In this situation, it was obvious that whoever objected would die. Therefore, these people obediently shut their mouths. Moreover, the 14th prince had already announced to the world that it was the 10-sword sect who attacked the imperial palace yesterday. He issued a kill order for the 10-sword sect to pay the price. Although this kind of thing was obviously nonsense and knew that it was nonsense, only people knew the truth now. After a period of time, basically no one would know the truth. Naturally, they would treat this matter as true. Sometimes, the truth wasn't that important. What the person in power wanted to make people believe was what really mattered. Li Zongjiu also became the real imperial tutor. Later, he also gave great help to the White Deer Mansion. It was simply the face of the entire dynasty. Of course, this was a story for later. After Li Zongjiu defeated Emperor Shengyan, there was nothing out of the ordinary. This was because he asked Xiao Zhao to send over a lot of medicinal herbs. Then, he announced that he would be going into seclusion for 7 days. As usual, when he refined pills, it was unpredictable. Could it be that in Li Zongjiu's eyes, defeating Emperor Shengyan was really a very simple thing? Now, it seemed that it was indeed so. The commander of the city guards, Wang Ding, was appointed as the commander of the Imperial Guards. He was promoted by 2 ranks. It was quite dazzling and could be considered as the 14th prince's trusted aide. After all, they all came from the White Deer Mansion. When Long Ying and Long Ma returned to the Imperial City, only then did they know that the Imperial City had undergone earth-shattering changes. Chapter 1195. 7 days later. The incident in Monarch City was quickly covered up. The Imperial Court had even issued a ban to prevent excessive discussion. Furthermore, they had already drafted a plan to suppress the Ten-Sword sect. As for whether Li Zhongjiu had killed Emperor Xingyan, it was impossible to say for sure. No one could say for sure what had happened. However, everything in Monarch City remained the same. There weren't any unnecessary disturbances. Only the threshold of the White Deer Mansion had been replaced. This was because there were more people coming through the door. However, Li Zhongjiu hadn't shown his face during this period of time. In 7 days, the sky above the White Deer Mansion had already been filled with hundreds of pill lightning bolts. Those who didn't know would have thought that the people in the White Deer Mansion had done something that angered the heavens and the people. However, they discovered that these were all pill lightning bolts. Judging from the number of pill lightning bolts, Li Zhongjiu had refined at least 10 grade 6 elixirs in the White Deer Mansion. What is Eunuch Li trying to do? Refining so many high-grade elixirs. It doesn't matter what he's trying to do. What's truly terrifying is that Elder Li actually possesses such great strength. The interval between each elixir is extremely short. Furthermore, he has been refining elixirs non-stop for the past 7 days without stopping. The people from the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion were also staring at Li Zhongjiu's actions. They were naturally shocked by Li Zhongjiu's strength. Within the Azure Ocean Academy, there were also a few experts who were staring in the direction of the White Deer Mansion. However, they naturally didn't dare to offend the White Deer Mansion. Moreover, the Azure Ocean Academy's purpose was only to nurture more talents. They were a group of people who were focused on education. They even invited Li Zhongjiu to become the honorary dean of their Azure Ocean Institute. This honor was accepted by Xiao Zhao on behalf of Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu was naturally happy to accept such a title. After all, the current strength of the Azure Ocean Academy was no longer inferior to that of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor and the Imperial Martial Pavilion. In fact, it had even formed a tripartite situation. As such, Li Zhongjiu would be able to send even more disciples of the Li family to the Azure Ocean Academy. Of course, the disciples who were sent there had to undergo training at the White Deer Mansion. They had to go through Liu Pei's military training before they could be sent to these academies. Otherwise, these people would think that it was easy to get such an opportunity. That was not what Li Zhongjiu wanted to see, but it was clear that Li Zhongjiu had little experience in education. Xiao Zhao was also gathering all the great teacher resources in the world. At the same time, he also had a plan for the White Deer Academy. Of course, this plan was still being discussed. It was not difficult to set it up, but the most important thing was to be able to operate and maintain it. Xiao Zhao did not have much experience in this aspect, so it had to be done slowly. On the 7th day, the thunderclouds above the White Deer Mansion finally calmed down a little. Kuan Erisher had already taken care of other matters. When she heard that her brother was going to the wilderness, Lan Yuyen was so scared that she hurriedly rushed over from Kuan Castle. She originally wanted to persuade Kuan Erisher to stay, but Kuan Erisher was also very determined. If he did not go, it would hinder his cultivation. It would be difficult for him to improve in the future. Lan Yuyen, who had just arrived, did not know that Li Zhongjiu had already eliminated Emperor Xingyan. Kuan Erisher and the others naturally would not speak carelessly of this matter. This matter could only be discussed slowly in the future. This White Deer Mansion is really big. Lan Yuyen was considered a knowledgeable person. She had seen some extremely magnificent places before, but compared to the White Deer Mansion, they were lacking in flavor. Within the White Deer Mansion, the surrounding decorations and designs were elegant yet noble, low-key yet not lacking in substance. It was definitely a top-notch design and craftsmanship. There were not many people in the world who could create such a design. You're here. Oh, Miss Yuyan is here too. Li Zhongjiu walked in. Kuan Erisher and Lan Yuyan both stood up. Lan Yuyan felt a little uneasy. After all, she had come without informing them beforehand, which was a little impolite. Have a seat. You should know that Kuan Erisher is leaving, right? I know. This brat favors outsiders. If he can't bring the girl back, then don't come back. Lan Yuyan pretended to be angry as she spoke. Kuan Erisher could only nod repeatedly in agreement. I refined 106th grade elixirs and 37th grade elixirs. Whether it's for detoxification or cultivation, they have miraculous effects. Take them with you on the road. You should know how to consume them. Li Zhongjiu did not waste any more words. He directly took out 2 bottles. One bottle contained 106th grade elixirs, while the other bottle contained 37th grade elixirs. It seemed that these high-grade elixirs were like small stones in Li Zhongjiu's eyes, which could be casually thrown away. It should be known that if an ordinary person were to casually get one, they would probably store it as a treasure or even worship it. How could these elixirs be piled up in a bottle? Little did they know that by putting the elixirs together, they could strengthen and retain their medicinal properties. This is too much. Kuan Erisher was completely shocked. Although he knew that Li Zhongjiu would give him some elixirs, he did not expect that he would give him so many at once. That's right, elderly. This is an experience. How can we give him so many things and give him a shortcut? You can't do that. Such precious pills, elderly, you should keep them for yourself. Lan Yuyan said repeatedly. He could not accept such a big gift. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Here are 3 8th grade elixirs. If you take them at a critical moment, they will be enough to save your life. In addition, I have integrated a formation seal into these 8th grade elixirs. If you are in danger, crush the elixirs and I will be able to sense it. Whether you save yourself or I save you, there are only 3 chances. If you can't come out alive, I will find a random day and treat it as the anniversary of your death. Li Zhongjiu said. Kuan Erisher looked at the 3 bottles in his hand and understood Li Zhongjiu's good intentions. After giving Li Zhongjiu a fierce hug, he did not argue and directly put away the elixirs. Boss, don't worry. Even if Kuan Erisher has to crawl, he will crawl out of the untainted land. Kuan Erisher said firmly. Lan Yuyan looked at the side and could only sigh. In the end, she also hammered Kuan Arashi's chest. Come back quickly, do you understand? You are not allowed to play outside. Yes, second sister. Kuan Erisher said seriously. This could be considered a long time. Li Zhongjiu did not ask Kuan Erisher to stay for a meal. It was not a big deal for a young man to go out and explore more. Otherwise, if he was always under the protection of his parents and brothers, when could he become a real pillar of the world? Lan Yuyan only sent Kuan Erisher out of the city. The rest of the road was left to Kuan Erisher. 1 man, 1 horse, 1 spear, 1 sword. They set off, all the way to the east. Chapter 1196. Kuan Erisher had already left. If others knew about the treasures he carried with him, they might try to kill him several times over. However, if he couldn't even leave the Shengyan dynasty, then there was no need for him to go to the cloud-top heavenly palace. He just had to obediently stay in Kuan Castle. Do you want someone to accompany you for a stroll in the city? Li Zhongjiu looked at Lan Yuyan, who had returned after sending off Kuan Erisher. No need. Lan Yuyan smiled. This matter is over. I should go back. Okay. Xiao Zhao, send them off for me. Li Zhongjiu had been continuously refining elixirs for the past 7 days. These elixirs were quite heavy. Even for Li Zhongjiu, it was extremely difficult to refine them. Especially when refining the 3 grade 8 elixirs, he had almost exhausted all of his strength. Therefore, he needed a certain amount of time to rest and adjust. It was understandable for Xiao Zhao to send them off. Li Zongjiu didn't need to be polite to everyone. Naturally, there weren't many people who could be personally sent off by Li Zongjiu. Those who could be personally sent off by Xiao Zhao were already given enough face. This time, she was fortunate enough to see Li Zongjiu in Royal City. For Lan Yuyan, it was already quite worth it. However, she was indeed unwilling to go back just like that. Miss Lan, I heard that you once opened a martial hall in Kuan Castle, but it was later closed. Is that right? Xiao Zhao looked at Lan Yuyan and said. Currently, Xiao Zhao's temperament was no longer that of a servant. Instead, he had the bearing of someone who was in control of the world. However, he was extremely low-key and reserved. This was because he had been with Song Jieyu for a long time, which had greatly influenced him. That's right, we don't have enough manpower. Moreover, the situation in Kuan Castle doesn't allow for it. If I have the chance, I would like to properly set up a martial hall. However, if you want to practice martial arts, you must first cultivate your body and mind. Lan Yuyan said. Her heart was full of melancholy. In fact, Lan Yuyan didn't like the family business that much. There were many things that needed someone to handle. On top of that, in Kuan Castle, Xue Kuan's faction had been eyeing it covetously. It was not that he was unwilling to hand over the position of city lord. Instead, it was because the people from Xue Kuan's faction possessed murderous intent. If they were to take control of Kuan Castle, they would bring about an enormous disaster. After sending Xiao Zhao all the way to the door, Lan Yuyan was also preparing to bid farewell to him. However, she saw Xiao Zhao pressing down on Lan Yuyan's raised hand. If there was an opportunity today, and the White Deer Mansion provided all the resources for you to set up an academy, what would you do? Xiao Zhao looked at Lan Yuyan and said. Lan Yuyan was stunned when she heard this. Wasn't the meaning of Xiao Zhao's words obvious? However, could it be that he was going to leave such an important matter to Lan Yuyan? Set up an academy? Me? In Monarch City? Lan Yuyan asked in confirmation. That's right. In Monarch City, the White Deer Mansion can take care of all the official documents, environment, and external forces needed. However, the true core of an academy still needs someone to control it. For this, I'm looking for someone with experience and enough courage to be qualified. Xiao Zhao looked at Lan Yuyan and said. Lan Yuyan confirmed again and again that this wasn't a joke. If Miss Xiao Zhao agrees, Lan Yuyan is willing to go through water and tread on fire. Lan Yuyan said. Obviously, this matter was going to be a big deal for Lan Yuyan. In that case, our deal is considered a deal. Xiao Zhao smiled. If it was based on ability and strength, there were many people who were more suitable than Lan Yuyan. However, no one was as passionate as Lan Yuyan. Only the passion in one's heart could lead one to better and more dazzling success. Just experience wasn't enough. One had to have passion as well. The academy in Kuan Castle was built by Lan Yuyan using her time and energy outside of work. She even invested all of her own money. This was because this project didn't receive the support of the Lan family. Although it was called a martial arts hall, the instructors that Lan Yuyan invited all started from teaching martial ethics. If they didn't come to learn skills, but to listen to you spit on them, who would be willing to come? Therefore, under the pressure of many parties, this martial arts hall quickly fell into the dust. Now, her wish to build an academy could be realized in Monarch City. Firstly, she could fulfill her wish and do what she liked. Secondly, she could bring the culture of Kuan Castle to Monarch City. Letting the world know more about Kuan Castle and expanding the influence of Kuan Castle was a very important matter. This kind of opportunity was naturally rare and valuable. If it was successful, it would be something to be proud of for Lan Yuyan. I'll do it right away. Lan Yuyan immediately became excited. After all, she was still young and didn't need to think too much. If this matter was successful, it would naturally be the best. If it wasn't, she could just take it as accumulating some experience. This kind of situation was also quite beneficial. Of course, Lan Yuyan was happy for another reason. That was that she had a legitimate reason to stay in Monarch City. Although she couldn't become Li Zongjiu's woman, at least she could be one step closer to the man she liked. This was definitely an unexpected surprise for Lan Yuyan. Xiao Zhao smiled in understanding. At least he finally found a responsible person and entrusted this matter to her. After all, Xiao Zhao wasn't omnipotent. Naturally, he couldn't handle many things by himself. Moreover, Xiao Zhao's main focus was naturally the big and small affairs of the White Deer Mansion. Of course, these incidental value-added businesses were just casually handled. It was good that this matter was successful. It was equivalent to opening up a path for the White Deer Mansion. At the same time, it would increase the reputation of the White Deer Mansion. This was such a good thing, so why not? Li Zongjiu had already settled all the threats in the huge Xingyan dynasty. Even many threats from the Haiku dynasty had been eliminated. For the Li family in Wuxia city, there were still some dangers. They were safe, but there were still some hidden dangers. Li Zongjiu naturally didn't need to deal with these hidden dangers. If there were no enemies, then this family would have a hard time growing. They needed enough pressure to push them from behind. Now, the Li family could sit back and relax. It could be considered extremely stable. They just needed to pay attention to some ignorant people. Li Zongjiu rested for 2 days. He took out the ginseng fruit in his hand and prepared all the supplementary herbs. The Prime Sovereign Soul Fusion Pill. This time, I want to see what kind of surprise it will bring me. Li Zongjiu's recent realizations. The power of the 4 primordial spirits was too scattered. Now that his cultivation had reached the supremacy realm, if he merged the primordial spirits, there would definitely be a breakthrough. Chapter 1197. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu had used the Guzuan soul-merging elixir to integrate the power of the 4 great dragon souls into his body. However, doing so was indeed against the heavenly Tao. Li Zongjiu was already very lucky to be able to get such a result by chance. Moreover, if he were to take this kind of pill in this life, Li Zongjiu only wanted to achieve one kind of effect. He wanted to merge the 4 great origin spirits into one, leaving only one origin spirit. This way, he would not have to spend so much effort to cultivate them one by one. After spending 5 days, Li Zongjiu finally refined the elixir. Seeing the Guzuan soul-merging elixir again, he felt rather close to it. It was also because of this elixir that Li Zongjiu had such a great opportunity to start over. Such an opportunity could not be replicated. It's still too early to consume this elixir. The success rate of the integration is too low. Li Zongjiu thought to himself. When one's yuan power, mental energy, and physical strength all reached the sovereign realm, the corresponding dragon souls would naturally reach the sovereign realm as well. Only then could the success rate be increased. After all, this was an unscrupulous act. However, there was no doubt that if this succeeded, Li Zongjiu's strength would increase by several times. Moreover, it would be on top of the original foundation. The elixir had been successfully refined. Now, Li Zongjiu's mental energy had not yet caught up to the yuan power and physical strength realm. Hence, he needed to work on his mental energy. Immediately, he gathered many heavenly treasures that could improve his mental energy. Li Zongjiu also cultivated with the white god Fu every day to adjust his condition. He also cultivated with the help of elixirs. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. There were a few major things that Sacred Flame Royal City had done in recent days. First, they refined the Heavenly Water Sect, besieged the 10 Sword Sect, and crippled the 10 Sword Sect. In the end, they apologized one after another. This battle also displayed the strength of the Shengyan dynasty. In addition, Zhao Lei had also been promoted to the head of the imperial guards because of the Hua family's contributions. Of course, most people knew that this was because Zhao Lei belonged to the White Deer Mansion, so they had to take good care of him. If one followed the right person, the road to promotion would naturally be fast. Of course, one had to have real ability to stay in this position. There was another big matter. The Shengyan dynasty moved the capital. Because the original imperial city was already in ruins, and the dragon vein itself was also damaged, the imperial palace was directly transferred. Many people guessed that it was because Li Zongjiu's White Deer Mansion had already controlled the entire Shengyan dynasty. Even the imperial power could not exert its power here. Furthermore, it was impossible for the White Deer residents to move away, so they could only move away from the imperial city. For such a huge matter, the White Deer residents didn't say anything. No matter where they moved to, as long as they dared to act recklessly, Li Zongjiu would be able to destroy them. It was just a way to find peace of mind. The new city was located in the Shengyan dynasty's Dingqian province. It was a Qianquan city by the Qianquan River. When the imperial palace moved here, it was directly renamed Qianquan Sacred City. After all, the 14th prince had obtained the inheritance of the Saturn Palace. He knew that only by moving the imperial city here could it be passed down for generations and be immortalized. The construction of the imperial palace took 2 months. Only the main hall was completed. The 14th prince had already moved there, discussing politics and building at the same time. In addition to the imperial palace, the 14th prince also ordered the construction of the imperial Tudor mansion. Obviously, the 14th prince knew that if he didn't get on Li Zongjiu's good side, he probably wouldn't even have a way out. The scale of Qianquan's sacred city could only be considered ordinary. However, with the relocation of the imperial court, it would definitely become prosperous. Similarly, the prosperity of the Sacred Flame imperial city was destined to not decline. After all, the foundation of many families was here. Moreover, even if the 14th prince was in charge of state affairs, if he encountered such a big matter, he would still need the approval of the person in the White Deer Mansion. It was considered a very big matter. However, it was not a big matter for Li Zongjiu. After the imperial palace moved away, the original place was directly flattened. It was bought by the White Deer Mansion. An extremely huge academy was built. Li Zongjiu named it Tianzong Academy. The position of the academy master of the Tianzong Academy was not held by Li Zongjiu, but by a young girl from Kun Castle. Her identity and background were very clear, so it was not difficult to investigate. However, such an important position suddenly fell into the hands of a person called Lan Yuyan. Obviously, the White Deer Mansion valued Lan Yuyan very much. Then, Lan Yuyan and the Kun Castle behind her walked into everyone's sight. However, the establishment of the Tianzong Academy. The surrounding people had to make way for it. Moreover, many teachers were poached from the Imperial Martial Pavilion and the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Many powerful alchemists were even recruited from the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. After all, although the Tianzong Academy did not have Li Zongjiu's name on the surface, it was undoubtedly the property of Li Zongjiu. On this day, Li Zongjiu was fishing in a fish pond in the Tianzong Academy. Speaking of which, Lan Yuyan was really good at running the academy. She had almost turned many talents into extremely formal things. Apart from the orthodox path of cultivation, such as culinary skills, it was very interesting. She had directly hired the famous chef from the imperial kitchen to become a teacher. She also welcomed people with cooking talent to enter and learn. Cooking was a very simple and vulgar thing in the eyes of ordinary people. However, after some research, many people were surprised to find that cooking well was not as simple as cultivating origin energy. If a chef graduated from the Tianzong Academy, he would naturally be a famous person when he went out. It was enough for countless restaurants and inns to spend a lot of money to hire him. It seemed that only by inviting such an expert to take charge could one distinguish the difference between mediocrity and oneself. Being of a high grade was the most important. Such a messy subject was actually created by Lan Yuyan. At first it was really worrisome, but it was unexpectedly successful. In the future, there would be more and more geniuses in the Shengyan dynasty. It was really amazing. For example, the fish that Li Zongjiu was fishing in the pond now was prepared to be sent to the kitchen to be processed and cooked in a while. It was unknown who said that the fish he caught would be more delicious when cooked. Today, it was mainly because Li Zongjiu and his wife had come to the Holy Flame Imperial City to visit. After all, their son had forced the imperial court to move away. Such an awesome thing, of course, they had to take a good look at it and see how Li Zongjiu was doing. Chapter 1198. A fat salmon was attracted by Li Zongjiu's hook. After it was hooked, it was still in the bucket, wagging its tail. Send this fish to the Divine Chef Academy and let them have a good meal, Li Zongjiu said. Behind him, two maids hurriedly lifted up the buckets. His fish is too small. Give me this one, said a middle-aged man. A middle-aged man at the side said. With a wave of the fishing rod in his hand, a fish weighing 3 jin was hooked up. Send mine over as well, young man. You still need to practice more. Ha ha ha. Li Tianqing's face was filled with pride. Li Zongjiu smiled. This kind of leisure time was what he wanted. Now that he was at the top of the world, all the disputes had come to an end for the time being. Therefore, the disputes among other people were still going on, but at least for Li Zongjiu, he did not need to worry about these things. At present, there were very few things that could affect him. This academy is really well established. Many people don't have the talent for cultivation, but they are forced to cultivate. This is not right. If there is a chance, they should still choose what they are good at. However, it is not easy to maintain such a world. Of course, the world had to be peaceful. Only then would he have the opportunity to study other things. For example, cooking. After going out to study hard for 5 years, he returned only to find that his home had been robbed clean. How would he settle this matter? You really have a lot to worry about. Li Zongjiu teased. Boy, you must be itching for a beating. Li Tianqing raised his eyebrows. In this world, if anyone except him dared to say such things to Li Zongjiu, they would probably be skinned alive by Li Zongjiu. Half an hour later, 3 plates of delicious dishes were placed on the table. The main ingredients were all the fishes he had just caught. Even though he had the ability to see through heaven and earth, he had never seen Li Zongjiu being extravagant. In this life, he only enjoyed some very ordinary things. This chef's skill is indeed not bad. When is Yanran coming back? Did you even take it to heart? Chen Shi fiercely pinched Li Zongjiu's arm. Li Zongjiu was also full of grievances. Every 2 days, he would use his spiritual power to search the entire Shengyan dynasty for possible places where there might be movements. Qi Yanran cultivated in the legendary Divine Sparrow realm and obtained such a supreme inheritance. Even Li Zongjiu had no way to find the location of the Divine Sparrow realm. The Divine Sparrow realm was an independent space. It could appear anywhere, but there was no way to find it. The only way to find it was through the exit. Moreover, you can only wait for him to appear on his own. Otherwise, you won't be able to find it. I'll go look for it right now. If you can't find me, don't come back. Chen Shi looked extremely ferocious. Li Tianqing, who was standing to the side, saw this and laughed loudly. Hurry up and eat. I have an appointment with old man Qi to play chess in the afternoon. Li Tianqing said. He had only been here for a few days, but he was already quite familiar with the way around. You have nothing to do, but Qi Shaohun has a lot of things to deal with every day. He can't be as carefree as you. However, if Li Tianqing came, it was impossible not to greet him. This was Li Zongjiu's father. Maybe his words were more effective than Li Zongjiu's. In other words, they had just lost a few games of chess in the past few days, which directly gave them 2 new mining rights. Moreover, the proportion of primordial stones left had also increased. This made the Qi family rich in an instant. It could be said that they had reached the sky in a single bound. In the past, Li Zongjiu naturally wouldn't take the initiative to arrange these things. However, after Li Tianqing came, these things were much easier to deal with. As long as Li Tianqing was happy, things would naturally be easier. Li Zongjiu used his mind power to cover the entire Xingyan dynasty, looking for any place where there was an abnormal fluctuation. Once he found it, he immediately went to search for it. With his current strength, he could almost reach any corner in half a minute. In the southeast corner of the dynasty, there was an abnormal fluctuation, but Li Zongjiu determined that it wasn't the aura of the divine sparrow realm. Soon, an urgent military order was sent to the White Deer Mansion. At the same time, a secret report was presented. The time difference between the news and the news was almost negligible. After Xiao Zhao read the contents of the report, his eyes widened. Immediately, he opened his eyes wide. His eyes were full of disbelief. He quickly sent the news to Li Zongjiu. "Young master, something big has happened." The place where Li Zongjiu often lived was the Sky Sect Academy. This was the old site of the Imperial Palace. Later on, Li Zongjiu had set up many array formations to add luster to the Sky Sect Academy. Now, Li Zongjiu had authorized Xiao Zhao to manage everything. Only some matters that involved the Li family would be discussed with Li Zongjiu. However, Li Zongjiu's intention was to hand over the authority to Xiao Zhao. If the authority was handed over to the main family, it would be inevitable that the authority would be used for personal gain. If it was for the good of the Li family, then it would naturally be a good thing. However, if it wasn't for the good of the Li family and was used for personal gain, then it would be a disaster for the Li family. Li Zongjiu believed in Xiao Zhao's strength. Even if it harmed the interests of some people in the Li family, he would still agree. As long as they were alive, Li Zongjiu would suffer some losses. What was important was that the Li family could survive. Ordinary matters didn't need to be reported to Li Zongjiu. However, today, Xiao Zhao personally came to see him. "Speak." "It's about the remains of the sacred martial emperor's underground palace. It appeared in an ancient forest in the southeast corner of the dynasty in the early morning. Just now, there was a secret report that some stone armor men appeared in the underground palace." Stone armor men. Li Zongjiu had never heard of stone armor men in his previous life. Could it be related to the ancient demon clan? Now that the ancient demon clan was rampant, it gave the empires and dynasties a chance to train their troops. If the world was peaceful, naturally, after a long time, many people would naturally forget the majesty of the imperial court. Only when there was a crisis would they think of the stability and peace brought by the imperial court. Therefore, the 14th prince, No, was now the crown prince. The crown prince was a fierce commander. At the same time, he also issued the demon-slaying order, which could be exchanged for rich rewards with the imperial court using the demon beads. Chapter 1199. The appearance of the stone armor man had caused a great disturbance. Moreover, someone had defeated the stone-armored soldiers and found some rare jewels from them. The origin of these jewels was also confirmed. They came from the era of the powerful Saint Martial Great Emperor in ancient times. Suddenly, this area had become a gathering place for experts. At least tens of thousands of experts had gathered in various places of the dynasty. Moreover, the White Deer residents had also received important news, and several hidden aristocratic families had also revealed themselves one after another. The fight for the stone armor man was bound to be a big event. A great disaster had occurred. Of course, Li Zhongjiu didn't care about the stone armor man. What he really cared about was the treasures in the underground palace of the Saint Martial Emperor. This was a legend that had affected many people. Countless experts wanted to get a share of it. The Saint Martial Emperor. If that's the case, the Saint Martial Emperor should be an absolute saint as well. There might be some secrets in his tomb, murmured the Saint Martial Emperor. Li Zhongjiu didn't know much about absolute saint items. However, there was a lonely soul hidden in the Azura cauldron. It seemed to be an absolute saint who had wandered from the primitive land. He had to go to the primitive land, but Li Zhongjiu had to reach the absolute saint realm first. The stone armor man. Let's keep an eye on him and see if there are any changes. Li Zhongjiu ordered. Li Zhongjiu was now waiting for Qi Yanran to show up. Almost half a year had passed in the divine sparrow realm. Even if it was the inheritance, it should be about time for her to come out. Yes, young master. Xiao Zhao replied. They had to keep an eye on it. Obviously, Li Zhongjiu didn't want to get involved for now. Li Zhongjiu didn't care about the current level. What was the use of killing the stone armor man to get some random jewels? However, in this place called Stone Forest, the situation wasn't as simple as they had imagined. Even the information they received was only one-sided. The real scene was even more terrifying than they had imagined. In the Stone Plains forest, the number of stone-armored people that had appeared was quite large. Moreover, these stone-armored people were extremely good at hiding. If they relied on each other, from a distance, they would clearly look like a very large rock. No one would have thought that this was the case. This was the stone-armored man. Moreover, the stone-armored man was extremely terrifying in battle. Although his moves were very simple, his attacks were extremely swift and fierce. He wouldn't be afraid of any Yuanli attack unless the opponent's strength was enough to break through his defense. Otherwise, he could just pretend that the stone-armored man didn't exist. He easily blocked all of the attacks. At this moment, there was a group of 5 people quietly approaching the forest. Moreover, they were extremely cautious of the surrounding movements. They were a profession that had just emerged recently, called stone hunters. These stone men seemed to have been sealed with magic, and not all of them contained treasures. Only some powerful stone-armored people would have treasures in their bodies. However, as long as you found it, it would definitely be worth it. The return rate would be very high. Moreover, some jewelers had already begun to set up stalls nearby, buying these antiques at a high price. There wasn't even a single city within 100 miles. This showed how remote this place was. There was only a small town called Stone Town 50 miles away. Stone Town originally had a population of about 600 households. It was considered a very small place. However, recently, many people had rushed in and started to do business in this town. It was quite popular. After searching for so long, I still haven't seen any stone-armored people. Do these things really exist? A woman seemed to be a little impatient. The weather was so hot, yet she still had to crawl around in this place full of mosquitoes. This kind of life was simply too much. It was only because she heard that a lot of precious jewels would appear that she agreed to make a trip. However, after searching for so long, she still hadn't found anything. Instead, she was taken advantage of by these mosquitoes. However, just as her voice fell, the ground under her feet suddenly shook as if there was an earthquake. The woman was directly lifted to a high place. Ah! The woman hurriedly stabbed the sword in her hand into the ground, trying to stabilize her body, but it was useless. She was still swaying. Most importantly, her body was still rising. This caused the woman to be extremely alarmed. Stone-armored people. So big. The remaining 4 people were still standing on the ground, looking at the stone-armored people that kept rising. Everyone's eyes widened. They had never heard of these stone-armored people's height before. They were actually close to 30 feet tall. At least 7 or 8 meters tall. The stone-armored people's faces were based on the stone carvings. After looking at them, they were also quite shocked. After all, this stone-armored person also had a kind of aura. Looking at it made people feel like their souls were being taken away. The stone-armored person raised his hand and slapped down. Boom! When the slap landed, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. 2 people reacted quickly and dodged to the side. However, the other 2 people were directly smashed into meat paste. After seeing this scene, the other 2 people who were dodging were so shocked that they even forgot to breathe. Then, the stone-armored person stomped down again, crushing one of them into pieces. The other person also got up and ran outside, wanting to find out that this was the stone forest. In the face of such huge monsters, no one would want to fight them. However, the stone-armored person didn't move. Instead, he directly uprooted a big tree beside him and threw it forward. Bang! Countless sharp branches pierced through the man, piercing his intestines and stomach. The man fell to the ground, blood flowing out. He died with his eyes wide open. These people came here with the intention of making a fortune. Who would have thought that they would encounter such a thing? They were unable to fight back at all. They had overestimated their own ability. No, to be precise, they had underestimated the ability of these stone-armored people. Even this batch of stone-armored people that could drop jewelry and equipment were not on the same scale as this batch of stone-armored people. Such a terrifying degree was enough to easily destroy them. At the very least, one needed to be an Origin Emperor expert to be able to contend with it. At this moment, the woman standing on the stone-armored person's head trembled at this scene. In the blink of an eye, her companions had been killed by the stone-armored person. She was alone, so how could she possibly have the ability to survive? The stone-armored person stretched out his hand and slapped his head as if he was swatting a mosquito. The woman standing on the stone-armored person's head was directly smashed into meat paste. Chapter 1200. Over the past few days, the appearance of the armored stone man had attracted a large number of stone hunters. Most of them had some strength. At first, only a few Sky Origin Ancestor level experts had gathered here. However, as time passed, these Sky Origin Ancestor level experts seemed to be lacking in strength. The appearance of Yuan Monarch level powerhouses had gradually taken over this place. A camp had been set up in Stone Town. Today, news of many Sky Origin Ancestor level powerhouses dying had suddenly spread, causing the powerhouses hidden in Stone Town to get excited. If even the Sky Origin Ancestor level experts had died, this meant that the armored stone man, who was carrying an even more precious treasure, had appeared and thought that his treasure was more precious. This was also the time for these Yuan Monarch level powerhouses to make their move. Immediately, they saw that there were at least 1,000 Yuan Monarch level powerhouses. Those who were slightly weaker would be too embarrassed to charge at the front and would only dare to stay at the back. They would pick up the leftovers later. Stone Plains Forest was extremely vast. Even if tens of thousands of people entered, there would not be any commotion. It was really hard to tell how many people there were. However, something terrifying happened. Nearly 1,000 Yuan Monarch level powerhouses had entered Stone Plains Forest. All of them had disappeared without a trace. It was strange that they had disappeared just like that. Half a day had already passed. Logically speaking, these people should have retreated after nightfall. However, these people were still inside and had not retreated. Some people went forward to investigate but did not find any traces. However, traces of battle could be seen everywhere in the forest. There was also blood left behind. There was no blood on the armored stone man's body. At dusk, a cool breeze finally blew out of Stone Plains Forest. When this breeze blew into Stone Town, everyone could smell the faint scent of blood. Everyone could smell the faint smell of blood in the air. At the beginning, it was only a little bit. It was very faint. However, as time went on, the smell of blood became heavier and heavier. The only conclusion was that most of the people who had entered Stone Plains Forest were already dead. When such a terrifying thing happened, some timid people were probably scared to death. However, some courageous people were even more excited. This meant that a precious treasure would appear in this place. In a corner of Stone Town, there was a farmhouse that had been bought by someone. The original owner took a large sum of money and went to the nearest city to live a happy life. Obviously, the person who took over the house was also from a wealthy family. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to fork out such a large sum of money to let the other party move away directly. Family head, a fishy wind is blowing. The stone-armored men in the Stony Plains Forest have already grown to 10 meters. An old servant whispered to a gray-robed old man. The old man was also holding a book in his hand and reading it under the dim light of the oil lamp. From time to time, he would frown. What was surprising was that the book in his hand didn't need to be flipped. The content would move on its own and be displayed in the book. It was truly astonishing. Such a wondrous object was the wordless heavenly book. And the one who had the wordless heavenly book was the Yun family, known as the #1 collector's family in the world. This gray-robed old man was the head of the Yun family. The wind blew. Yun Fengqi closed the wordless heavenly book and moved his fingers. I have already calculated that these stone-armored men are very cunning. They actually dared to lure the human race to their deaths. Pass down my order. All disciples of the Yun family enter the Stony Plains Forest and hunt down stone-armored men that are 10 meters tall and above. These stone-armored men must have some ancient books in their bodies. Yes, family head. The old servant replied. After the order was passed down, these people moved out one after another. As for the battle strategy, it was already planned beforehand. Therefore, it was a very simple matter. They only needed to find the right target. Master, you are familiar with ancient and modern times. What is the origin of these stone-armored men? Obviously, the old servant was very curious about the origin of these stone-armored men. They didn't look like meta-beasts, nor did they look like humans. How did such a huge difference come about? How could such a thing appear? Therefore, the old servant was very curious. It is difficult to define these stone-armored men. However, it is more appropriate to call them living puppets. When the Saint Martial Emperor was about to rule the world, he turned his millions of soldiers into terracotta figures and sealed them in the secret underground palace to form this Yin army. The Yin army won't die, and the Saint Martial Great Emperor has set up a soul-returning array in this tomb. If the world is too peaceful, the Yin army will appear and slaughter living creatures. Their blood will spill over the earth, and in the end, the power of the blood will be absorbed by the Saint Martial Great Emperor, completing the reincarnation method of resurrection. Of course, that might not necessarily be accurate. However, the bodies of these stone-armored people carry treasures from the ancient era. Firstly, it's used to lure greedy people. Secondly, it's used to suppress the power in their bodies, so that they can fight for the Saint Martial Emperor for generations to come. After listening to the explanation of Yun Fengqi, the old servant was enlightened. He didn't expect the origin of these stone-armored men to be so great. They were even refined by ancient soldiers. Although this method was very cruel, it was enough to see how terrifying the Saint Martial Emperor was. If such a Saint Martial Emperor was resurrected, the impact would be very bad. Taking advantage of the night, the people of the Yun family all sneaked into the stony forest. These experts of the Yun family made a precise battle plan. They were not greedy for rewards. After the commotion in front of them, the experts of the Yun family swarmed forward and killed a 10-meter-tall stone-armored man. Even this stone-armored man was comparable to a mid-level Yuan monarch. Fortunately, there were many experts in the Yun family. After smashing the stone-armored man into pieces, immediately, an ancient scroll appeared. They didn't recognize the words on the ancient scroll. However, when their family master, Yun Fengqi, received the ancient scroll, he laughed crazily. They had never seen their family master so excited. The 12 Scriptures of Taixien. It is the legendary 12 Scriptures of Taixien. If we can obtain these 12 Scriptures of Taixien, we will be able to find the final destination of the Saint Martial Emperor's secret treasure. This was equivalent to a treasure map. Who wouldn't want such a precious item? However, at this time of the morning, the people who were resting in the stone town suddenly heard the earth shaking as if the earth was collapsing. Someone climbed up the tall building of the town and looked out. Immediately, they saw a group of gigantic stone-armored people rushing towards the stone town at high speed. By the time someone saw it, the fastest golem had already smashed a hole in Stone Town's wall with a loud bang. Chapter 1201. The defensive wall of Stone Town was only an earthen wall that was less than 6 meters tall. The stone-armored men were huge and easily destroyed the earthen wall. However, Stone Town did not have any defensive power. After the stone-armored men rushed in, they destroyed all the houses easily. They even had giant weapons in their hands that smashed the roofs. Some of the people who had fled into the streets were also killed by these weapons. Blood splattered everywhere in Stone Town. All the people fled, but they were not as fast as the stone-armored men. In less than a quarter of an hour, the entire Stone Town was destroyed. However, the Yuan Qi masters who had come from afar also encountered these stone soldiers directly. It was already too late for them to escape, as there were hundreds of Yuan monarchs in the small town. Everyone tried to attack, but they were all crushed by the stone-armored men. The Yun family experts led the Yun family patriarch, Yun Fengqi, to kill their way out of the encirclement and encountered the terrifying stone-armored men. Patriarch, retreat quickly. The Yun family guards rushed out on a few fast horses, but they were chased by the stone-armored men. 2 Yuan monarchs died on the spot and their corpses were not left intact. Go into Stone Plains Forest. Yun Fengqi shouted. Immediately, more than 10 fast horses changed direction and rushed into the forest. If they were on flat ground, they would not be able to escape the stone-armored men's pursuit. After losing nearly 6 people in a row, Yun Fengqi followed the last 7 guards and charged into the Stone Plains Forest. After the 7 of them disappeared into the forest, the stone armor men actually turned around and continued to destroy the stone towns. The huge stone town had been completely destroyed. After destroying Stone Town, the stone-armored men used a long stone spear to skewer all the corpses they could find. All the corpses were dragged back. Only 20 to 30 stone-armored men were dispatched, but they were equivalent to thousands of soldiers and horses. The first ray of dawn had just risen, but Stone Town, which had been beautiful all day, was already destroyed. The news of Stone Town's destruction quickly spread to Qinggo City, which was 150 kilometers away. After Qinggo City received the news, they sent 3 scouts to see if the news was true. However, they received a positive answer. Immediately, the city lord of Qinggo City immediately reported the news to the imperial court. It was an extremely urgent matter. Such an important military matter naturally could not be delayed for even a moment. Find out what it is. Jiang Sui, the city lord of Qinggo City, asked. We've searched the entire town, but we haven't found a single survivor. We haven't even found a complete corpse, only some broken limbs. However, there are many hard rocks that are nearly 10 feet wide at the scene. They should be the recently rumored giant stone-armored men. It's the stone-armored men again. Why hasn't the imperial court sent troops here yet? Just as Jiang Sui was having a headache. In the distant sky, a large group of red scarlet flame birds appeared. When Jiang Sui saw the traces of the scarlet flame birds, he was shocked. But then, a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. It's the Vermilion Bird Army. The dynasty's Vermilion Bird Army is here. Jiang Sui quickly ordered people to clear the drill ground so that the Vermilion Bird Army could land. Immediately, the Vermilion Bird Army landed. There were a total of 75 Scarlet Flame Birds. I'm Su Mo, the Left Commander of the Vermilion Bird Army. I've been ordered to take over the defense of Qingdao City. At this moment, Su Mo had already changed into a set of armor. He was currently wearing an ink green armor with a general token sword at his waist. The green feather token sword. Qingdao City Lord Jiang Sui greets General Su. Jiang Sui quickly bowed. It was actually the left commander of the Vermilion Bird Army who had personally come. He was already considered the number 3 person in the Vermilion Bird Army. In addition to the left commander, there was also the right commander, and then there was the commander. Su Mo was young, but he was already the left commander. He was definitely a powerful person. The Scarlet Flame Bird Army under him was the fastest army in the Imperial Court. No matter where it was in the Imperial Court, it would arrive within a day. It was clear that the Imperial Court had already received the news without Jiang Sui's report. After all, the Imperial Court attached great importance to the appearance of the stone-armored people. Behind the stone-armored people was the martial Saint Emperor. There were even many secluded families that had already begun to pay attention to the situation here. The martial Saint Emperor's ruins were the final goal that everyone was looking for. Give me all the information you know. Also, evacuate the citizens of the city. Take my general token sword and quickly go to the nearby cities to dispatch troops to defend the city. Su Mo ordered the Vermilion Bird Army behind him to take over the city's defense. He also ordered City Lord Jiang Sui to personally dispatch troops. This caused Jiang Sui and the others to panic a bit. Even the Vermilion Bird Army couldn't handle it and still had to mobilize so many people. General, how many people do we need to mobilize? Jiang Sui couldn't help but ask. The nearby cities were 200 to 300 miles away. If they were to mobilize troops, 3 days would be enough. But how many troops should they mobilize? They should at least leave some people to defend the city. Otherwise, there would be people who would take this opportunity to cause trouble. All of them. Su Mo said expressionlessly. In fact, it wasn't just here. At almost the same time, more than 10 cities in the Imperial Court were being attacked by the stone-armored people. It was just that the situation in Stone Town was the most serious, so Su Mo quickly came after receiving the order. Jiang Sui didn't dare to disobey. Now that the Crown Prince was in charge of the Imperial Court, he probably wanted to quickly resolve this matter to establish his image and merit. In the Stone Forest. There were many people who managed to escape into the forest, but they weren't completely out of danger. There were still many wandering stone-armored people chasing after them. The people of the Yun family could only hide and hide. These stone-armored people can determine our location based on the vibrations. Everyone, hide in the water. Yun Fengqi said. Everyone quickly dived into the river and hid in the water. They didn't dare to move around as they trembled. Patriarch, should we kill our way out under the cover of the night? The Yun family had lost so many people today. They couldn't wait to destroy these stone-armored people, but unfortunately, they weren't strong enough. Right now, they had to hide in the water and tremble. If they continued to stay in the water like this, it wasn't a solution. They could only survive if they killed their way out. No, these stone-armored people have been completely activated. They will lead the army into battle. And their goal was to take human lives. Chapter 1202. Wuxia City was also attacked by a few stone-armored people. However, before these stone-armored people could get close to Wuxia City, they were smashed into a pile of stones by the Sky Blaze Lion's claws. These stone-armored people didn't even have time to reach Wuxia City. Now, the entire Wuxia City had enough defensive forces to prevent all kinds of situations from happening. Even the slightest movement of the grass within a radius of 100 miles could be quickly detected. The situation in Wuxia city would be quickly reported to Li Zhongjiu. After all, this was his hometown. If he couldn't even protect his hometown, then what was the use of his cultivation? Wuxia city is in danger now. Of course, I have to go back and preside over the situation. After Li Tianqing knew that such a situation had occurred in Wuxia city, he was very anxious and immediately asked Shen Shi to pack up. Li Tianqing also asked Li Zhongjiu to investigate this matter carefully. After all, the appearance of these stone-armored people had destroyed many cities. In just one day, tens of thousands of people had disappeared. Moreover, this number was still increasing. As the saying goes, the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. Although Li Zhongjiu only wanted to protect the Li family's business, White Deer Mansion naturally wouldn't ignore such a thing. What's more, the survival of a family wasn't just the survival of the family members. Survival was only the foundation. Reputation and reputation had to be passed down one by one. Only such a family could be considered to be alive. When the later generations heard about the Li family, they would naturally be filled with endless worship and respect. I understand. I'll deal with it right away. Immediately, Li Zhongjiu nodded and said. You have to be careful too. Li Tianqing looked at Li Zhongjiu and finally patted Li Zhongjiu's shoulder. Then, he boarded the second-generation Qilin battleship and slowly rose into the sky. His Li family's battleship could fly anywhere in Sacred Flame Royal City. Now that Sacred Flame Royal City had a new City Lord mansion, all the configurations were the same as other places. Xiao Zhao of White Deer Mansion was the City Lord. Naturally, no one dared to covet the position of the City Lord. As long as the White Deer Mansion was happy, they could do whatever they wanted. As a result, Xiao Zhao's authority increased, and he naturally had more things to do. However, Xiao Zhao only needed to be responsible for the stability of the city. As for how it would develop, he didn't need to worry at all. Everything else would go on as usual. However, the military power in Xiao Zhao's hands was not for show. He directly recruited 250,000 soldiers, and the city lord's mansion also had to collect a portion of all the taxes and benefits in the city. If he didn't like anyone, he would bring his troops and trample them. Li Zhongjiu's influence in the Sacred Flame Royal City was already like the sky. Of course, due to the establishment of Qiankuan's sacred city, since it had become the center of power, there were also many people who went there to establish their foundations. It was almost equivalent to giving the entire royal city to Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu was quite satisfied with the 14th prince's way of doing things. This kid was tactful and didn't act recklessly. Otherwise, Li Zhongjiu could casually change the emperor. Although Xiao Zhao had many things to do every day, he had also formed a think tank. Naturally, there were many things that Xiao Zhao didn't need to do personally. She just needed to carry out the final checks. However, regarding Li Zhongjiu's matters, Xiao Zhao had personally gone to report them. Young master. Xiao Zhao came before Li Zhongjiu. What are these stone men? Is that their nest? Li Zhongjiu asked. Even his father had directly spoken. How could he not take action? After all, he couldn't ignore his father's words after becoming stronger. Replying to young master, the specific location of the nest has not been determined yet. However, if we want to find the source, we can only go to this stone forest. Xiao Zhao said. The matter of Stone Town had already caused an uproar. Since the establishment of the Shengyan dynasty, such a thing had never happened before. The entire town was wiped out in just half a day. Such a cruel and tyrannical thing, no one knew who incited it. Perhaps it wasn't done by a human at all. Alright, then I'll go to this stone forest. Li Zhongjiu had been sitting and cultivating for a long time. It was time for him to go out and look for traces of Qi Yanran. Who knows, maybe he would find it. I'll let the experts in the mansion go together. No need, I'm going out for a walk. Li Zongjio waved his hand and said. It was troublesome to bring these people along. After all, Li Zongjio had always been a lone wolf in his previous life. Previously, he had brought along a large group of people to build up his momentum and posture. However, there was no need to do so now. After saying that, Li Zongjio's figure disappeared from the spot. Xiao Zhao also widened his eyes and looked around. He couldn't find any trace of Li Zongjio. Now, Xiao Zhao also had the cultivation of the Yuan King realm. After some guidance from Li Zongjio, he had become a true Yuan King. His Yuan energy was vigorous, but he couldn't find any trace of Li Zongjio's disappearance. Young Master's cultivation has reached an unfathomable level. Xiao Zhao exclaimed in her heart. At the same time, he wasn't worried about the young Master's safety. There weren't many people in the world who could hurt the young Master. At least, no one had found such a person. Anyone who heard the name Li Zongjio had to be respectful. Although Xiao Zhao didn't go with him, he was still trying his best to gather information. He wanted to know more about the stone-armored men, but there were many things that couldn't be found out just by investigating. Qinggo City had already mobilized a total of 50,000 soldiers and horses. They had also sent people to dig a huge pit in the open space in front of the city wall. According to the information that they had gathered, the tallest of the stone-armored men was a colossus that was close to 30 meters tall. The city wall was only 30 meters tall. The stone-armored men only needed to charge a few times or even kick the city gate open. Therefore, such a defense wasn't worth mentioning. Only traps could restrain the stone-armored men, but what kind of trap would be effective? Su Mo didn't know either. He would only know after testing it out. General, we've discovered a lone stone-armored man wandering 800 meters away from Qinggo City. It's close to 15 meters tall. Team 1, follow me out of the city. Su Mo did not say anything else. With a command, he led a group of 15 people and soared into the sky. They quickly headed in the direction he had just mentioned. Chapter 1203. Su Mo led the 15 winged cavalry soldiers and charged into Qinggo City. Soon, they saw a valley where they were using the stone spear in their hands to carve a hole in the mountain wall. When the last spear was fired, a scream rang out. Screams could be heard coming from the cave. 2 children had been caught in the cave, and they had been discovered by the armored man. That was why they had started digging the cave. Throw the spear. Su Mo ordered. Then, he lifted the long spear in his hand to his side. After infusing Yuan power into it, he swiftly threw it forward. Boom! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! 16 fiery red spears whizzed out. Bang! Some of the spears pierced through the stone-armored person's shoulder. However, the stone-armored person was wearing an armor made of stone, so he was able to easily knock the spears away. The 2 children in the cave screamed in fright. The stone-armored person was attacked, and one of the spears pierced through his eyes. The stone-armored person immediately turned his head. The stone spear in his hand whistled and swept towards the scarlet flame bird. Boom! The terrifying power formed a powerful force that forced the scarlet flame birds to retreat. Release the dragon trapping claw. Claws made of steel appeared in everyone's hands, and they all threw them at the stone-armored person. The hooks in their hands also directly trapped the stone-armored person. After a circle, they bound the stone-armored person's hands and feet and pulled him back. The stone-armored person that was 5 feet tall was restrained. Then, Su Mo led the scarlet flame bird downwards. With a leap, he rolled into the cave and arrived in front of the 2 children, grabbing them with one hand. He threw them onto the back of the scarlet flame bird with all his might. Just as Su Mo was about to jump onto the back of the scarlet flame bird, he saw that the vermilion bird army that had released the dragon trapping claw was directly suppressed by the stone-armored person. It was like a tug of war, and the stone-armored person directly flipped them over. Their bodies instantly collided with each other, and they were fiercely thrown to the ground. Their bodies rolled far away on the ground. Luckily, they were all wearing the armor of the Vermilion Bird Army, so they weren't seriously injured. General. The Vermilion Bird soldiers on the ground all cried out in alarm. Su Mo's Scarlet Flame Bird had already risen into the air, carrying the two children. The stone-armored soldier, however, jumped and actually grabbed the Scarlet Flame Bird. Immediately, Su Mo leaped without hesitation. His body exploded, and at the same time, a huge flame flower appeared behind him. There seemed to be branches and leaves on the flame flower that wrapped around the stone-armored man and restrained him. Boom! Su Mo released all of his elemental energy. It wrapped around the armored man. The stone-armored man seemed to be unable to withstand the high temperature. After losing his momentum, he fell from the sky. At the same time, he struggled to break free from Su Mo's Yuan spirit. Everlasting Flame Glass. Su Mo performed a hand seal, and the fiery glass flower on his body turned into a flowing flame vortex, which directly fell on the body of the armored man. Immediately, the armored man's body began to melt. In the end, with a bang, his body shattered, turning into several huge rocks that fell to the ground. The Scarlet Flame Bird landed with the two children. The rest of the Vermilion Bird Army also quickly gathered. Seeing how powerful Su Mo was, all of the Vermilion Bird Army were shocked. This was because Su Mo was temporarily transferred here. Although he obeyed orders, they never thought that Su Mo would be so powerful. Just this point alone was enough to make them admire him. "You're from Stone Town." Su Mo looked at the two saved children in front of him. One of them was a little older, about 11 or 12 years old, while the other looked to be only 8 or 9 years old. "Thank you, General, for saving our lives. We're from Stone Town." The little girl obediently knelt down. Even now, her legs were still weak. There was no need to talk about the story behind it. Something like this had already happened in Stone Town. There were all sorts of reasons behind it, and they all had their own reasons. "Bring them to Chingo City," Su Mo said. Su Mo said. If they didn't arrive in time, the two children would have been taken away by the armored man. Even if they were alive, they would be orphans. However, as long as they were alive, there would always be hope. "Yes, General. General, your hand is injured," one of the subordinates immediately said when he saw blood dripping from Su Mo's arm guard. "It's fine." Su Mo glanced at it. It was just an accidental cut, so it wasn't a big deal. "We can't stay here for long. Take these stones back to the city and find someone to study their weakness." "Yes, General." However, at this moment, the ground suddenly began to violently tremble. Moreover, it was becoming more and more intense. After a moment of silence, Su Mo and the others looked around and saw something quickly falling from the sky. "Not good, quickly retreat." Su Mo hurriedly shouted. Immediately, the Scarlet Flame Bird also flew into the sky. 3 enormous figures descended from the sky. Boom! 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 Su Mo was directly sent flying by the shockwave created by the 3 armored men. Pang! His body flew dozens of meters away. After that, a giant spear continuously stabbed over. Just the tip of the spear was as big as Su Mo's head. If this spear hit, it would be enough to turn his head into tofu. Su Mo hurriedly flipped over and threw out several black metal balls. After a few seconds, the metal balls touched the armored man's body, causing a loud explosion. Countless iron beads swept out. There were also many holes in the bodies of these stone-armored men. General. The Vermilion Bird Army that had already escaped floated in the air. Of the 15 Vermilion Bird Army members, 12 of them had already escaped. The remaining three gathered with Su Mo and formed a defensive formation. The weapons in their hands were all vermilion bird brand bows and shields made by the Heavens Workshop. "All of you, quickly return!" Su Mo shouted. The three armored men that appeared in front of them were 8 feet tall. Boom! After the armored men recovered, they began to attack again. They directly raised their feet and stomped down. As soon as their feet landed, the formation formed by Su Mo and the other three was instantly destroyed. The other three were sent flying. Only Su Mo's condition was slightly better. However, in reality, Su Mo had also been hit by the energy of the other party. The blood in his body was constantly churning. Damn it, 8 feet tall armored men. Their strength is comparable to a rank 8 Yuan king. The one that was 6 feet tall was equivalent to a rank 6 Yuan king. With Su Mo's strength, he could barely deal with it. However, the ones in front of him were even more terrifying. They were difficult to block. One of the armored men pierced the spear in his hand towards a Vermilion Bird Army member. The Vermilion Bird Army member was sent flying against a rock wall and was unable to move. Now that he saw the other party's attack, he had no strength to dodge. He was so frightened that his face turned pale. Whoosh! At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air came from far away. It seemed to have flown in front of him in the blink of an eye. Pang! The armored man was sent flying a few hundred meters and crashed into a small hill. At the same time, there seemed to be a small throwing knife stuck in his head. Chapter 1204. The tail of the throwing knife trembled slightly. Then, the stone-armored man seemed to be hit by a great force and shattered into pieces. The other two stone-armored men rushed towards Su Mo and the others. Su Mo's heart tightened, but at this moment, a hand pressed on his shoulder. Retreat! A voice sounded in Su Mo's ears. Su Mo was startled, and when he turned around, he saw Li Zongjiu looking at the stone-armored man indifferently. When the stone-armored man's spear stabbed towards him, Li Zongjiu didn't dodge. Instead, he stretched out a finger and pointed forward. When Li Zongjiu's finger collided with the opponent's giant stone spear, he originally thought that Li Zongjiu's finger would be directly crippled. However, he did not expect that the stone spear would be like tofu, easily shattered by a finger. After the spearhead was broken, Li Zongjiu directly reached out and grabbed the spear's shaft, then pulled the stone-armored man's body towards him. The stone-armored man stumbled towards Li Zongjiu, but he didn't stay idle at this moment. The stone-armored man also slapped towards Li Zongjiu. Su Mo, who was standing behind Li Zongjiu, felt that the sky above his head had been completely covered. The imposing manner of this palm strike and the powerful pressure had already restricted the two of them to the spot. They couldn't escape at all. When the three people outside saw Su Mo being covered by the stone-armored man's palm, they suddenly exclaimed, "General!" However, in the next second, Li Zongjiu also punched the stone-armored man's body, and the stone-armored man didn't even have time to dodge. Under this terrifying power, the stone-armored man was like a sand eagle in the desert, blown away by the wind. Under Li Zongjiu's power, the stone-armored man directly turned into sand, and was directly blown away by Li Zongjiu's fist. In the end, a crisp sound was heard. It seemed like a bronze item had fallen to the ground. It seemed like this was what they had said before, that the stone-armored man would drop these items. The third armored man did not seem to be afraid at all. Although he knew how powerful Li Zongjiu was, he still charged forward without hesitation. Li Zongjiu punched out again. At the same time, the stone-armored man turned into a pile of dust that flew into the air. However, this one didn't drop anything. It seemed like not all of these stone armors had dropped items. The Vermilion Bird Army in the sky hadn't gone far. When they saw the three ferocious and terrifying stone-armored people turn into dust, they were all shocked. There was actually such an expert. Immediately, they landed in front of their general. They didn't know the other party's identity, and their general was alone at the moment. If he wasn't careful, he would be in danger. Why are you here? Su Mo looked at Li Zongjiu in shock. He actually appeared at such a crucial moment, and it was this guy who saved her life. It was really hard to explain. My father told me to come. Li Zongjiu naturally waved his hand and said. What exactly was going on? When the rest of the Vermilion Bird army saw that Su Mo actually knew Li Zongjiu, they were all surprised. As expected of a general, even the people he knew were so powerful. This is Li Zongjiu, the imperial tutor. He is also the crown prince's teacher. When Su Mo saw that the eyes of the surrounding young ladies were sparkling, he opened his mouth to introduce them. Sure enough, each and every one of them had their eyes wide open. Although they appeared incomparably calm on the surface, their hearts were already unceasingly salivating. Looking at the young man in front of them, at first glance, he wasn't very handsome. In fact, he could only be described as ordinary. However, the aura he had was indescribable. It was as if this aura couldn't be learned, nor could it be faked. It was something that could be cultivated. He had an unfathomable and calm demeanor. Imperial tutor. Crown Prince Fu. He was actually so young. Although they had heard of Li Zongjiu's name before, when they saw him in person, they were still very excited and surprised. He couldn't believe his eyes. The young man who had appeared like a god and killed 3 stone-armored men with a casual wave of his hand was the legendary Li Zongjiu. We pay our respects to the imperial tutor. The Vermilion Bird army bowed. Why didn't they know that their general was acquainted with the imperial tutor? It was no wonder that their general was able to become the left commander at such a young age. Since he was acquainted with the imperial tutor, it would be very easy for him to be promoted. Moreover, their general was already very strong. There was no need for any hidden rules. Everyone, rise. There's no need to be so formal. Li Zongjiu waved his hand. After all, on the surface, everyone's age was about the same. Moreover, these young people in the army were very hard-working. These young people weren't any worse than the others, so there was no need for so many rules. This bronze item seems a bit strange. Li Zongjiu picked up the bronze item. It was a wine cup. This is an ancient bronze item. It was said that it was buried with the Saint Martial Great Emperor. Su Mo said. Since Li Zongjiu was here, there was nothing to be afraid of. One must know that Li Zongjiu's previous deeds were enough to scare a lot of people to death. They couldn't believe it when they heard it. Therefore, there was no need to worry about their safety. With Li Zongjiu's help, this trip wouldn't be so difficult. There's a dark array buried in here. Once this dark array is activated, it will create a killing array. Everyone within a 10-meter radius will be smashed into pieces. Li Zongjiu said. Su Mo and the others heard this. The few girls subconsciously took 2 steps back. They didn't expect this thing to be so dangerous. Li Zongjiu wiped the edge of the cup with his finger. Okay, I've broken this dark array. After saying that, he put away the cup in his hand. Su Mo and the others were also speechless as they looked at Li Zongjiu. Who knew if what he said was true or not? They didn't see anything powerful being released. Maybe he was just bragging. Let's go back to the city first. Li Zongjiu said. They had come a long way, so they should at least have a meal. Su Mo also gave the order to return. Immediately, the 16 red flame birds flew back to Qinggo City. Li Zongjiu, on the other hand, soared into the air. When everyone returned to Qinggo City, they realized that there was an extremely serious situation in Qinggo City. 60 Vermilion Bird soldiers were fighting with a man. However, this man acted as if he was playing with the 60 Vermilion Bird soldiers in the palm of his hand. Chapter 1205. Is the Vermilion Bird army of the imperial court only at this level? The man mocked. The soldiers of the Vermilion Bird army were naturally unconvinced. However, no matter what formation they used, they were unable to even scratch the man's skin. He seemed to be at ease. Stop! Su Mo's figure landed outside the formation as he angrily roared. When the soldiers of the Vermilion Bird army heard this, they quickly retreated behind Su Mo. General. General, be careful. This person's origin is unknown. He has trespassed into the camp. The soldiers of the Vermilion Bird army were already exhausted. This person had already been fighting with them for a long time. If it weren't for the pride in their hearts that allowed them to persevere, they might have already been lying on the ground. You're a general. Since you're already a general at such a young age, you must be quite capable. How about this, you can bring your men along with you. I want to see how you became a general. The man seemed to be full of vigor as he gestured for Su Mo and the others to come forward and spar. His words were filled with disdain. Impudent, how dare you disrespect the general? Who do you think you are? There is no need for my general to fight. A young woman beside Su Mo angrily rebuked. She even aimed the Vermilion Bird divine crossbow at the man. This woman was the soldier of the Vermilion Bird army that was almost trampled to death by the stone-armored soldier. If it weren't for Li Zhongjiu's soul-severing knife arriving in time, she would have died under the stone-armored soldier's foot. Insolent! Slap her! The man immediately bellowed and appeared in front of the woman in the next moment. He raised his hand and swung it at her face. She didn't expect the man's speed. By the time she could see him clearly, the slap had already landed. Slap! A crisp sound rang out. A figure flew out and rolled twice on the ground. The woman beside Su Mo stood there in a daze. She looked at Li Zhongjiu and then at the person who flew out. It was the man who was about to slap the woman's face. Li Zhongjiu waved his hand. I think I hit him too hard just now. The man who had just casually taken on the attacks of 60 Vermilion Bird soldiers was now sent flying by Li Zhongjiu's slap. All of the Vermilion Bird soldiers also looked toward Li Zhongjiu. They didn't know who this youth was, but in such a serious situation, they couldn't whisper to each other and disturb military discipline. However, looking at the person who was sent flying just now, he felt a sense of satisfaction in his heart. This person was incomparably arrogant. Now that he had been slapped in the face, he felt a sense of relief. Young lord! Brat, you actually dared to injure my high family's young master, just wait for your death. The fish dragon guards of the high family will definitely take your life. A grey-robed old man quickly ran out from the side and helped the man who had been sent flying with a slap to stand up. Li Zhongjiu's slap caused the man to foam at the mouth. His eyes rolled back and his body twitched non-stop. Moreover, half of his face was already paralyzed. This man's strength was only at the Origin Emperor realm. With just this bit of ability, he dared to jump out and jump around. It was no wonder that Li Zhongjiu could slap him into this state with a single slap. Hi family. You're from the Northern Sea Island. Su Mo was also startled when he heard the old man's words. There weren't many people with this surname, and they had such an arrogant attitude. They could only be from the Northern Sea Island. Speaking of the Northern Sea Island. It was considered an island under the Shengyan dynasty. It was considered a small subsidiary country. Because of its special environment, it was difficult for the Shengyan dynasty to conquer it. However, the Northern Sea Island was also very close to the Shengyan dynasty. They could only rely on the Shengyan dynasty. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a good time under these people. The Shengyan dynasty was quite tolerant of these people. They were allowed to develop freely as long as they paid tribute regularly. Moreover, the master of the Northern Sea Island also had the title of Northern Sea King of the Shengyan dynasty. He was also considered a noble. Since the man in front of him was called young master, then he must be the son of the Northern Sea King. That's right. My young master is the son of the Northern Sea King. You dare to be so presumptuous and seriously injure my young master. Just wait for your death. The old servant pointed at Li Zongjiu and the others and said with a trembling voice. Originally, the young master was just being playful and wanted to see the so-called strength of the Vermilion Bird Army. Originally, he heard that there were some stone-armored mutants here. Who knew that he would encounter the Vermilion Bird Army? Thus, he decided to test his skills. In the end, he was actually beaten to such a state by Li Zongjiu. It was as if he had encountered an unexpected disaster. He couldn't bear the humiliation. Su Mo immediately realized how difficult it was to deal with this person. Who would have thought that the person in front of him was actually a prince? The Northern Ocean Island had always been an important place for the dynasty to maintain its relationship with because it and the Northern Flame Island had extremely rich resources. If they destroyed the relationship between the two sides, who knew what the people of the Northern Sea Island would do? Li Zongjiu naturally knew about the Northern Sea Island, but he didn't put it in his eyes. According to the current trend, the Northern Sea Island would be directly conquered by the Shengyan dynasty soon. He had thoroughly beaten you until you lost your temper. That was how bold and arrogant he was. Not to mention a prince, even if you were the Northern Sea King, you would still have to kneel before Li Zongjiu. Let's do it according to the rules. If there's anything, I'll take care of it. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. Although Li Zongjiu was a bit of a bully, Li Zongjiu liked to bully others. If he wanted to play ruthless, then Li Zongjiu was even more ruthless than you. Everyone was the same. Su Mo was a bit hesitant, but this person was indeed too arrogant. He actually dared to be disrespectful to the Vermilion Bird Army, so he naturally had to show enough dignity. How could he let these foreigners be so arrogant? Take them away and lock them up. Since he had Li Zongjiu's approval, Su Mo didn't have anything to worry about. You dare! The old servant immediately roared and angrily scolded the people in front of him. You're offending your superiors. How dare you! Stop it! Stop it! Our young master is injured. If you continue like this, your family will be exterminated. Exterminated. The Vermilion Bird Army directly tied the two of them up and locked them up in the dungeon. In order to prevent the young master from charging out of the dungeon with his cultivation after he recovered, the Zhenyuan nail was inserted into the Northern Sea Prince's body. The old servant was very worried as he looked at him. Furthermore, they were shouting non-stop in the dungeon. The Vermilion Bird Army also knew that this mysterious young man was actually the current imperial tutor. Chapter 1206. Li Zongjiu could be considered to have helped the Vermilion Bird Army vent their anger. As for the consequences, they didn't need to worry about it. On the contrary, Su Mo felt a bit embarrassed. There were at least 30,000 soldiers in the city, yet they were toyed around by a single person. This was too embarrassing. As a result, the Vermilion Bird Army continued to train as punishment. They doubled their training. On the other hand, Li Zongjiu was listening to Su Mo and a few other officers report the situation here, including the things that happened up ahead. The entire stone town was destroyed. Such a thing was simply a huge disaster. Conservative estimates put the number of deaths in Stone Town at 20,000. Su Mo said. In addition to the local residents, there were also many stone hunters from other places who lost their lives. There are still some survivors wandering around the Stone Plains forest. The higher-ups have already given orders. Not only do they have to defend the city, they also have to carry out rescue missions. Su Mo said. A bunch of idiots. They weren't strong enough, yet they still wanted to join in the fun. Now that they've all lost their lives here, what's the point of saving them? Li Zongjiu didn't care about saving people. He was the great evil lord. How could he do something that would damage his reputation? If he went around saving people all day, he wouldn't be evil at all. Li Zongjiu naturally wouldn't do anything, but Su Mo had no choice but to do so. This was because these people had also sent a distress signal to the imperial court. Since they were citizens of the Shengyan dynasty, they couldn't just sit by and do nothing. Otherwise, how could the dynasty still have the credibility to convince these people? We still lack an expert on the stone-armored people. According to the report, the Yun family is also in the Stone Plains forest. With the Yun family's knowledge, they should know something about the stone-armored people. Tonight, I will organize a rescue mission to save the Yun family first. You stay in the city and help me defend it, Su Mo said. Su Mo said. Since Li Zongjiu came, there was no need to be polite. He directly arranged such a task for Li Zongjiu. Only Su Mo would dare to order Li Zongjiu like this. In fact, the two of them were also very good friends. Back then, when they met on the incandescent mountain, they were destined to become good friends. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu was a loner. The people he knew were either his enemies or people who were about to become his enemies. It was only after he gained strength and established his position as the evil lord that he became stronger. Everyone began to fear him, and they felt sincere reverence for him. Only then did the number of enemies gradually decrease and disappear. With the few of you, it's already good enough that you can defend the city. Li Zongjiu was also helpless. Who asked him to be involved in such a thing? He had to do something. Otherwise, if Li Tianqing knew about it, he might be scolded. Call me when you're leaving. I'm going to the city to eat a bowl of noodles. Li Zongjiu said. Understand the stone-armored people. Why would he need to understand them? They could be destroyed with a single punch. There was no need to waste so much time and energy to study them. However, this was not the only place where the stone-armored people appeared. For Su Mo and the others, there was nothing wrong with doing this. Li Zongjiu had not yet walked out of the gate of the city lord's mansion. Dozens of figures quickly descended from the sky and surrounded the city lord's mansion. Which blind thing dares to imprison my son? A shocking aura descended from the sky. It was as if a huge mountain had landed in the city. The aura was magnificent. Be on guard. Dozens of figures immediately attacked from the Vermilion Bird army. There were 20 of them. The female soldiers of the Vermilion Bird army also aimed their Vermilion Bird divine crossbows at the enemy. The two sides were once again in a stalemate. Li Zongjiu stood in the courtyard. In front of him were 20 people wearing cyan armor. Behind him were the members of the Vermilion Bird army. 5 people rushed in front of Li Zongjiu and protected Li Zongjiu. Regardless of Li Zongjiu's strength, as long as there was danger at the scene, considering Li Zongjiu's identity, they naturally had to protect him. It was the same no matter when. 3 figures descended from the sky. One of them had a face full of beard and wore a blue crown on his head. He looked like an opera singer. Who dares to be so presumptuous? Su Mo put away the map and walked out of the house. Her eyes were cold. In fact, she didn't need to ask. She knew who was causing trouble. However, with Li Zongjiu here, even if the Northern Ocean King personally came, he wouldn't be able to change anything. If the Northern Ocean King could speak properly, admit his mistake, and accept his punishment, Su Mo wouldn't make things difficult for these people. There was no need for that. However, from the looks of it, these people seem to be treating them as their subordinates. Tell your leader to come out. My lord doesn't talk to soldiers. A person walked out from beside the person wearing the blue crown. This person was wearing a white robe and was holding an ice blue stick. As he spoke, a chilling aura was emitted from his eyes. The surrounding temperature seemed to have rapidly dropped at this moment. I'm the left commander of the Vermilion Bird army, Su Mo. If you don't put down your weapons, you'll all be treated as traitors. Su Mo said coldly. All soldiers, listen to my order. After 10 breaths, fire at will. Understood. Let's see if you still dare to be arrogant after this. These people from the Northern Ocean Island only dared to be arrogant in front of a small army like theirs. Moreover, they only dared to show off their royal aura in a place like this. In reality, if it weren't for the resources there, they would have already destroyed the Northern Ocean Island. They wouldn't have allowed these people to run around and show off their strength. Little girl, do you know who you're talking to? If you hurt our prince, you'll have to wait for your 9 generations to be executed. The person holding the stick wanted to scare Su Mo and the others. The dignity of the Vermilion Bird Army couldn't be challenged. Su Mo clearly wasn't just joking. Time's up. Fire. Su Mo ordered. The Vermilion Bird Army immediately released the Vermilion Bird Divine crossbows in their hands. Whoosh! 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 The Vermilion Bird Divine crossbows immediately shot out. You're courting death. How dare you attack the Northern Ocean King? The person wielding the long rod waved the blue rod in his hand, forming a defensive barrier that blocked all the arrows. After blocking the arrows, he swung the stick in his hand forward and origin energy swept out like a wave. Moreover, this kind of Yuan power wave was rather turbulent when it attacked. Su Mo also used the might of the fire glass flower to condense it. All of the Vermilion Bird Army's origin energy entered Su Mo's body. The fire glass flower quickly expanded and spread out. As it spun, it easily blocked the incoming waves of elemental energy. Chapter 1207. Su Mo's origin energy wasn't as strong as his opponent's. However, with the support of the Vermilion Bird Army, he was able to fight evenly with his opponent. His opponent was also an origin emperor. These people from the Northern Ocean Island had some capital, which was why they were so arrogant. When the other person beside the Northern Ocean King saw that his subordinate seemed to be at a disadvantage, he immediately took a step to the side and arrived behind his subordinate. He also placed a palm on his subordinate's body. Boom! A domineering power swept out. The two of them had already given Su Mo and the rest of the Vermilion Bird Army a lot of pressure. Su Mo couldn't hold on any longer. Li Zhongjiu naturally made a move. A strand of origin energy entered the body of a Vermilion Bird Army soldier beside him. The woman immediately felt the surging power in her body. She subconsciously raised the Vermilion Bird Divine crossbow in her hand and shot forward. Whoosh! The arrow was earth-shattering. The arrow was aimed at the Northern Ocean King. Capture the leader first to capture the bandits. The woman was smart. With the powerful energy in her body, the power of the arrow was unprecedentedly strong. Whether it was speed or power, it was hard to imagine that she was the one who shot the arrow. Impudent. The faces of the two bodyguards changed drastically when they sensed the arrow. With their cultivation, they could naturally sense that the arrow was extraordinarily powerful. Be careful, my lord. One of them quickly retreated and blocked in front of the Northern Ocean King. However, the arrow easily pierced through the bodyguard's body. His armor couldn't block the sharpness of the arrow at all. The arrow pierced through his body and hit the Northern Ocean King, sending him flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood. The bodyguard holding the staff was also shocked. How did this woman do it? In the next moment, he saw the Vermilion Bird Army soldier raise the Vermilion Bird Divine crossbow again. This time, it was aimed at him. Wait. Wait a minute, wait a minute. The bodyguard panicked, but it was useless. The woman didn't hesitate to pull the trigger of the Vermilion Bird Divine crossbow. Whoosh! As the arrow whistled through the air, the Northern Sea Island expert immediately knew that the power of the arrow was not as simple as it seemed. Even though he was seriously injured from the backlash, he still forcibly broke the stalemate between him and Su Mo and the others. In the next second, He leapt up and used the ice-blue staff in his hand to block in front of him. Ding! The stick in his hand suddenly rotated. It was obvious that it had been hit by the arrow. However, the arrow still accurately pierced through his thigh. Immediately, a huge wound was torn open on the thigh. Ah! My leg is crippled, my leg. This was not only the damage caused by the piercing, but it also stirred up the elemental energy in his body into a pool of muddy water. With 2 arrows, the torturous situation in front of him was resolved. The chosen Vermilion Bird soldiers couldn't believe their eyes. They didn't expect the Vermilion Bird divine crossbow to be so powerful in their hands. Now that he had experienced such a powerful force, he wanted to work even harder in his cultivation. Many thanks. Many thanks to Imperial Tutor for helping. The little girl still hadn't recovered from the shock. Her heart was still trembling as she experienced the powerful force just now. Especially when Li Zongzhou's energy entered her body, the feeling of power was unforgettable. Take them all. Su Mo shouted. He had used up too much elemental energy and mental strength in the battle just now. However, after the 3 of them were defeated, the rest of them couldn't do anything. Furthermore, they saw that their prince was seriously injured by the arrows and couldn't resist. The 2 elders were no match for them, and they had already been injured by the arrows. They couldn't resist at all. Thus, they all threw down the weapons in their hands and raised their hands in surrender. Then, they were all detained. At this moment, in the dungeon, the old servant heard the sound of someone opening the door outside the dungeon and shouted, "All of you commoners, listen up. Quickly bring my young master to receive treatment. Otherwise, when my master arrives, all of your heads will be chopped off." The old servant shouted. However, he saw a series of people being arrested and locked in the dungeon. Almost everyone was shackled to prevent them from causing trouble. Why do these people look so familiar? The old servant was shocked. The old servant was shocked. The clothes of these people looked very familiar. Because the light in the cell was not good, when he took a closer look, he was immediately stunned. Isn't this the armor of the Northern Ocean Island? Isn't that the master? The Northern Ocean King was dragged into the dungeon. The Northern Ocean King was really a weakling. His primary energy cultivation was only at the Yuan Monarch realm. Could he be a substitute? His son was at the Yuan Monarch realm, but his father was only at the Yuan Monarch realm. However, no matter what realm or cultivation one was at, one would be imprisoned here. No matter how hard one tried, it was impossible to get out. After being captured, it didn't matter who one was. Master. Prince. Prince. What happened to Prince? Who did this? This is a declaration of war against the Northern Ocean Island. How dare you, the Vermilion Bird Army? Elders, why have you been captured as well? The old servant saw the 2 elders with a bloody hole in their chest and a bloody hole in their thighs. He knew why they had been captured when he saw how badly they had been defeated. Even these 2 great masters had been defeated and injured to such an extent. It was very normal for the prince to be captured. He didn't expect these people to be so daring as to injure the prince. The aggressive group of people from the Northern Ocean Island were all imprisoned in this dungeon. None of them were let off. The old servant, who had been shouting loudly, now became obedient. He finally understood. These people were really powerful. Didn't they say that Prince's status was very noble? However, these people don't seem to take it seriously at all. The old servant was also feeling melancholy. This matter was really difficult to explain clearly. Weren't they afraid of being punished by the imperial court? In fact, these people couldn't be blamed. They could only blame themselves for being too unlucky to have met Li Zongzhou here. Knowing that Li Zongzhou was here, they should have tucked their tails between their legs and behaved themselves. Now, they had to show off in front of Li Zongzhou. Wouldn't they be taught a lesson? Li Zongzhou's temper was much better now. After all, he hadn't experienced as much suffering as he had in his previous life. Therefore, in this life, Li Zongjie was much more tolerant. If it had been in the past, these people's heads would have all fallen to the ground. Quickly go to Qiankuan's sacred city and report. Let someone come and take care of the people from the northern ocean island. It was not a good idea to keep these people here. It was better to let someone deal with them. Of course, it was not a problem to lock them up, but it was limited to this. It was definitely impossible to kill them. They had to make sure that they didn't die so easily. In any case, he was still a prince. He couldn't just do whatever he wanted here. Otherwise, the other vassals would have opinions. If it weren't for Li Zongjie here, it would be difficult to deal with these people. Night fell. Li Zongjie, Su Mo, and the others went to the rescue mission together. Chapter 1208. Because Li Zongjie was with them, Su Mo only brought 6 of his men with him. The more people there were, the easier it was for trouble to occur. In the Vermilion Bird Army, 6 people were enough to form a complete squad. One of them was the female Vermilion Bird soldier that Li Zongjie had saved time and time again. Her name was Sun Yi. Having been favored by Li Zongjie many times, Sun Yi's admiration for a powerhouse like Li Zongjie went without saying. Even if she was asked to marry Li Zongjie, she wouldn't hesitate for even half a second. However, Li Zongjie obviously didn't have such intentions. In the stony forest, even staying in the river wasn't very safe. There were frequent attacks from meta beasts in the river, so they had to be on guard at all times. Father, we can't go on like this. Will the imperial court really send people to rescue us? Beside Yun Fengqi, a girl was already exhausted. However, her words were full of resentment toward the imperial court. It had been a day and a night, but there was still no sign of them. This girl was Yun Fengqi's daughter, Yun Zhongyue. Shoo, don't move. I just counted. There are at least 3 stone-armored men around us. The imperial court will definitely not ignore the signal I sent out for help. Yun Fengqi said. The people around him also lowered their voices and tried to minimize their movements. If they hid in the water, the stone-armored men wouldn't be able to detect them. Fortunately, their cultivation wasn't weak. However, soaking in the water for a long time made them feel extremely uncomfortable. This made Yun Zhongyue a little anxious. She wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. The people of the Yun family hid in the water and didn't dare to move. Suddenly, the river seemed to surge violently. There was a loud sound in front of them. Hearing this sound, the entire riverbed trembled violently. What's wrong? The water upstream has been blocked. The river is drying up. 4 stone-armored men came out of the forest on all sides. Several giant stone axes chopped toward Yun Fengqi and the others. At this moment, he had already exposed himself as a target. Logically speaking, these stone-armored men must be very stupid. They could sense the vibrations from the earth and rocks and determine the direction. Originally, staying in the water could prevent his body from being exposed. But who would have thought that these stone-armored men would actually stop the flow of water? They must have created a huge crack in front of them. Boom! The stone axe fell. The members of the Yun family immediately fled in all directions. Yun Zhongyue cried out in surprise. Because she didn't dodge in time, her arm was immediately cut by a flying rock. Blood immediately soaked her clothes. However, Yun Zhongyue was flung to the side. Yun Fengqi shouted. A stone-armored man had already arrived in front of Yun Zhongyue. He lifted his foot and stomped down. Boom! A loud sound rang out. Seeing this, Yun Fengqi was stunned. He could only watch as his daughter was trampled to death by this cruel and merciless stone-armored man. Patriarch, be careful. Yun Fengqi was pushed aside by the person behind him, and this elder of the Yun family was directly chopped into two halves by the axe. It wasn't even enough to chop him. He was directly smashed to pieces. Whoosh! Third elder. Yun Fengqi shouted. Suddenly, a rope wrapped around Yun Fengqi's body and swept him up. Just as he was about to leave, the stone-armored man's giant axe fell to the ground again. Another loud sound rang out. A terrifying shockwave woke Yun Fengqi up. While he was looking, he had already landed on a treetop. Not far away, his daughter was also placed on a tree. Flaming arrows continuously shot out from the forest. Whoosh! 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 The dense array of arrows immediately ignited the entire forest. It's the Vermilion Bird Army. Yun Fengqi's face was instantly filled with a smile. However, because things happened too suddenly and the stone-armored men came too quickly, they only had time to save 3 members of the Yun family. The rest died at the hands of the stone-armored men. The powerful fire also temporarily stopped the stone-armored men's footsteps. This was because the Vermilion Bird Army was proficient in using fire. Furthermore, the fuel that was brought out each time was specially made. It could explode with great power within a short period of time. The power of the flames was enough to affect a Yuan King elite. Hence, it was very easy to stop the stone-armored man from moving forward. There is no one else. A Vermilion Bird Army soldier reported. Retreat. Although the fire was huge, it was difficult to stop the stone-armored men for too long. If this continued, not only would there be stone-armored men, but more would come. Therefore, the Scarlet Flame Bird also descended from the sky and directly captured the Vermilion Bird Army soldiers. As they rose into the sky, groups of stone-armored men gathered behind them and charged towards them. Although they rose into the sky, these stone-armored men were still throwing the weapons in their hands. Fortunately, the Vermilion Bird Army and the Scarlet Flame Bird Army had a tacit understanding. Otherwise, if these terrifying weapons hit them, they would have been crippled. Yun Fengqi and the rest heaved a sigh of relief as they watched the stone-armored men gradually disappear beneath their feet. It was a pity that so many elites of the Yun family had been killed by the stone-armored men. This was equivalent to destroying the Yun family's many years of foundation. As a result, the Yun family would no longer have the right to be arrogant. However, although Yun Fengqi felt melancholy, as long as he had this thing in his hands, the Yun family would definitely be able to stand tall on this continent again. It was just a temporary depression. Li Zongjiu's trip was not in vain. At least he knew that the Vermilion Bird Army's actions were very efficient and orderly. As expected of the Vermilion Bird Army, their actions made Li Zongjiu repeatedly praise them. Of course, it was also because Sumo's command was good. It was just that he had arrived a little late and only managed to save 3 people. Strange, why are these stone-armored men still chasing after us? Some of the Vermilion Bird Army soldiers turned their heads and looked down. As the Scarlet Flame Bird Army was flying higher, they could only vaguely see a few figures running rapidly below them. They're still chasing after us? Yun Fengqi was also shocked. He turned around and looked down. He couldn't help but feel nervous. These stone-armored men's tracking ability on land was unquestionable. However, now that they were flying in the sky, they would only be able to catch them if they were very close. Now that the stone-armored men were still chasing after them, it was clear that there was something else that had attracted them. In an instant, Yun Fengqi thought of the 12 scriptures of supreme mystery in his hands. It must have the stone-armored men's aura on it. Therefore, as long as the 12 scriptures of supreme mystery were in his hands, the stone-armored men would definitely chase after them. Chapter 1209. You can't go back to the city. Take them to the Green Rock Stream. Su Mo ordered. At the same time, he was thinking about how to deal with these stone-armored men. Before they came to the Green Rock Stream, Su Mo and the others had already set up a trap. Since they wanted to kill these stone-armored men, they naturally had to make ample preparations. In terms of terrain, the Green Rock stream was relatively low. The cliffs on both sides were around 300 feet high. Moreover, there was a natural fuel mineral in the Green Rock stream. If it was ignited, it would create a monstrous fire that would be enough to bury these stone-armored men. Before this, they had already set up a trap. If they encountered an attack from these stone-armored men, they would be sent here. The 6 scarlet flame birds quickly turned around. Li Zongjiu looked at Yun Fengqi, who had a strange expression on his face. He opened his mouth and said, "Old thing, these stone-armored men are here for you. Could it be that you have something on you that they are interested in?" Li Zongjiu said, "Earlier, we have indeed killed several stone-armored men. However, the things we obtained were all useless antiques. To us, they are of no use at all." Yun Fengqi was still trying to play dumb. Li Zongjiu jumped and landed on the back of Yun Fengqi's scarlet flame bird. The scarlet flame bird couldn't bear the weight of 2 people, but after Li Zongjiu jumped on, it didn't have any reaction. Obviously, Li Zongjiu's weight was very light. He didn't even land on the scarlet flame bird's back. This made the scarlet flame bird's army very surprised. "What are you trying to do?" When Li Zongjiu jumped over, Yun Fengqi immediately tensed up. This guy looked like a gentleman, but he actually wanted to make a move on him. "I have 100 ways to make you speak, but today I will use this one." Li Zongjiu directly grabbed Yun Fengqi and hung him in the air. "If you don't hand it over, I'll throw you down." "Don't. What are you doing? I'm the head of the Yun family. If you do this, the imperial court won't let you off." Yun Fengqi shouted as he kicked his legs. "Let go of our patriarch. Bastard, let go of my father." The elders of the Yun family, as well as his daughter, could not bear to watch any longer. This Li Zongjiu had gone too far. He actually used such a despicable method to force her father to hand over the item. Wasn't this the behavior of a bandit? "I'll count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. However, before Yun Fengqi could react, he heard Li Zongjiu count to 3. "You are too fast. Big brother, who would count like that? Can't you be a bit slower?" As soon as Li Zongjiu finished speaking, he let go of Yun Fengqi's hand. Yun Fengqi's reaction was quite fast. He reached out both hands and grabbed Li Zongjiu's hand as if he was grabbing onto his last life-saving straw. Don't. Warrior, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. Pull me up." Yun Fengqi was also very fast. If he fell down now, the Vermilion Bird army would not be able to save him in time. There were already close to 20 stone-armored soldiers below. He placed Yun Fengqi back on the Scarlet Flame Bird's back. "You are simply a bandit, a bandit." Yun Fengqi cursed. However, when Li Zongjiu looked over, Yun Fengqi did not dare to continue. If this guy was unhappy and held a grudge after taking the item and threw him down again, then Yun Fengqi would have died for nothing. The reason they chased us here should be because of this item. Although I knew that this item would not last long in my hands, I did not think that I would have to give it up so quickly. Speaking up to here, Yun Fengqi was very reluctant and sighed with emotion. The 12 Scriptures of Supreme Mystery. Li Zongjiu took the book from Yun Fengqi's hand. It was said that this book recorded the location of the Saint Martial Emperor's secret treasure. However, he needed to collect all 12 books. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu had also heard of this item. However, at that time, the stone-armored soldiers did not appear. Or it could be said that these stone-armored soldiers were originally unable to leave the underground palace. However, this time, they took the initiative to attack and even attacked the city. This made Li Zongjiu feel very surprised. "You know about the 12 Scriptures of Supreme Mystery." This time, it was Yun Fengqi's turn to look at Li Zongjiu in surprise. He did not expect this uncouth-looking young man to know about the 12 scriptures of supreme mystery. It seemed that he was quite knowledgeable. I was not interested in this item before, so I did not collect it. Now, it seems that this item is quite interesting and has changed. In his previous life, Li Zhongjie did not collect the 12 scriptures of supreme mystery. The main reason was that he was lazy. Another reason was that he had waited for a long time and no one had collected all of them. Originally, he was waiting for someone to collect all of them. Then, he would just go and snatch them. Wouldn't that be very convenient? Therefore, Li Zhongjie had been waiting for a long time. However, he did not expect that after waiting for hundreds of years, no one had collected all of them. Therefore, in the end, Li Zhongjie gave up. After all, his cultivation had reached the peak. Before he reached the absolute saint realm, he did not dare to enter the underground palace of the Saint Martial Emperor. According to Li Zhongjie's guess, there must be something in the underground palace of the Saint Martial Emperor that could kill absolute saints. Only absolute saints could open it. Li Zhongjie believed in his talent. Even without the inheritance of the Saint Martial Emperor, Li Zhongjie would still be able to break through the absolute saint realm and reach the absolute saint realm. At this moment, he was looking at the scroll in his hand. I always thought that this thing was fake. It was very normal for the 12 scriptures of supreme mystery to be a scam. Li Zhongjie would not be surprised at all. This thing was indeed very difficult to identify. As long as no one succeeded, it could be fake. How can it be fake? The 12 scriptures of supreme mystery correspond to the 12 divine generals under the Saint Martial Emperor. There is a map in the tomb of each divine general. If we connect the maps, we will definitely be able to find the Saint Martial Emperor's underground palace. Yun Fengqi said this on purpose. He couldn't let this strange young man take advantage of him. Since he couldn't get it, he might as well announce it and let everyone know. Therefore, he said this on purpose for the Vermilion Bird Army to hear. However, the one controlling the Scarlet Flame Bird was Smoky Leaf. She was very grateful to Li Zhongjie for saving her life, so she pretended not to hear Yun Fengqi's words. Also, the 12 scriptures of supreme mystery are attracted to each other. Since the stone soldiers are chasing after us, it means that the 12 scriptures of supreme mystery also exist among them. Yun Fengqi looked at Li Zhongjie and said, "Oh." Li Zhongjie glanced at Yun Fengqi. Could it be that this old thing was talking nonsense so that he would jump down and die? If I can't find the 12 scriptures of supreme mystery, just you wait. Immediately, Li Zhongjie said with a smile. Then, he leaped and plunged downwards. Boom! This jump also shocked the others. What is he doing? Su Mo turned around and saw Li Zhongjie jump down, and his beautiful black eyes widened in shock. Chapter 12:10. Yun Fengqi's eyes were filled with mockery. What a fool! With just a few words, he had convinced Li Zhongjie that there was a treasure below. There was indeed a treasure below, but it was a pity that it wasn't something a fool like Li Zhongjie could obtain. If Li Zhongjie jumped down now, he would die. Everyone, return. Su Mo originally wanted to test the effect of the green stone stream he designed to see if it was useful. However, if Li Zhongjie jumped down, it would definitely be useless. No need to wait, this guy is dead. Yun Fengqi sneered. What he didn't say was that if these stone-armored people gathered together, the battle formation they formed would be enough to crush any army of the empire. Li Zhongjie, this hothead, did he think that he could fight against thousands of soldiers by himself? That would be looking down on these stone-armored people. Just as Yun Fengqi was feeling complacent about his plan, suddenly, in the valley below, there was an extremely terrifying trembling sound. Boom! Rumble! Yun Fengqi looked down from this angle and saw that some stone-armored people were directly blasted into pieces. Some even turned into dust in the air. Completely dissipated. There were more than 20 stone-armored people, and the tallest among them was already 80 feet tall. Even if an Origin Emperor came, it would be enough to deal with them. This brat could scare an old man like him, but if you were to face this stone-armored man. Yun Fengqi's eyes were wide open. Not only Yun Fengqi, but the people of the Vermilion Bird Army were also staring blankly at the battle before them. How could someone be so powerful? Under Li Zongjiu's attack, the 20 stone-armored people were all annihilated in less than 20 seconds, turning into dust that fell to the ground. Li Zongjiu also found the 12 mystery scriptures among the dust as expected. When Li Zongjiu picked up the scripture of the 12 mysteries from the countless lime powder, he nodded with satisfaction. It seemed that the old man from the Yun family didn't lie to him. If he dared to lie to him, he would throw the old man down next time. Otherwise, he would directly bring the old man to the underground palace where the stone-armored people appeared and throw him in. In less than half a minute, Li Zongjiu once again landed on the back of the scarlet flame bird. What happened just now was like going out to relieve himself. From this, one could see how terrifying Li Zongjiu's strength was. When Yun Fengqi looked at Li Zongjiu again, he didn't know what kind of feelings he had. He could only stare blankly at Li Zongjiu. "You've done well, it seems like reading more books is useful," Li Zongjiu said as he patted Yun Fengqi's shoulder. Previously, Su Mo had briefly introduced the situation of the Yun family to him. It was a scholarly family. Fortunately, the talents of the Yun family were pretty good. Even before the establishment of the Saint Flame Empire, the Yun family was also a big family in the underworld with a respectable status. However, who would have thought that the Yun family would fall to such a state now? "You're welcome," Yun Fengqi also smiled awkwardly. Before this, he didn't know that Li Zongjiu was so strong. Originally, he wanted to use the stone-armored man to get rid of Li Zongjiu and let this greedy brat die. "Let's return to the city." Su Mo looked helplessly at Li Zongjiu. There was no other way to deal with this matter. They could only return first. However, if they could get rid of these stone-armored people, it could be considered as solving a problem. Everyone returned to Qinggo City. The 3 people from the Yun family were directly invited to the Vermilion Bird Army's camp. At the very least, they had to assist the imperial court in solving the stone-armored people's crisis. Only the people from the Yun family had this kind of knowledge. Normal people wouldn't have access to this kind of knowledge. After Li Zongjiu returned to the city, he went to cultivate. He didn't have any meetings with Su Mo and the others. After all, this matter didn't have much to do with him. He only needed to act when needed. "General, may I ask who that person is?" Yun Fengqi clasped his hands and asked Su Mo. Yun Fengqi had been curious about Li Zongjiu's identity for a long time. Along the way, he had been thinking about what kind of person could nurture such a terrifying young expert. "You don't know him? His surname is Li." Su Mo looked at Yun Fengqi. Yun Fengqi searched through his mind again. Being so young, powerful, and having a good relationship with the Vermilion Bird Army and the court, it was natural for him to have such an identity. Could he be Li? Yun Fengqi wanted to slap himself. Why didn't he think of this person before? After all, before he acted, Li Zongjiu looked very ordinary. Therefore, it was difficult for Yun Fengqi to determine Li Zongjiu's identity based on his appearance. However, now he knew that the young man in front of him was the legendary Li Zongjiu, the legendary Crown Prince Fu, the imperial tutor. When he guessed Li Zongjiu's identity, Yun Fengqi's eyes widened. He never thought that the situation would be like this. If he knew that the legendary imperial tutor was so young and extraordinary, he would have given the 12 mystery scriptures to Li Zongjiu first. "Father, who is that person?" Yun Zhongyue saw the shock on Yun Fengqi's face. It was as if he had Alzheimer's. She was very curious and immediately went up to ask. At the same time, Yun Zhongyue was also very interested in this powerful and mysterious young man. One had to know that their group had been trapped in the pool by these stone-armored people for a full day and night. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. However, these stone-armored people were like flour in front of Li Zongjiu. They didn't have the strength to resist and were easily defeated. This person is the current imperial tutor, Li Zongjiu. Yun Fengqi took a deep breath. Even when he thought of Li Zongjiu's name, his teeth trembled. He couldn't believe that he would meet the current imperial tutor. If Li Zongjiu wanted to take his life, there were thousands of ways to do so. Ah! He is the legendary Li Zongjiu. Although the Yun family had been in seclusion, they could still receive such news. After all, they were not isolated from the world. After knowing Li Zongjiu's identity, Yun Zhongyue's eyes shone brightly. Chapter 12:11. Su Mo led a few people from the Yun family to discuss how to deal with the stone-armored man. The governor of Qinggo City had also mobilized the troops of the other cities. The huge Qinggo City had gathered a total of 150,000 troops. The military strength of the Saint Flame Empire was actually very strong. If 10 cities were to join forces, they would be able to gather millions of soldiers. Putting aside their combat strength, the gathering of such a large amount of manpower was enough to prove the strength of the Saint Flame Empire. Otherwise, they would not be able to support such a large army. The population of the Xingu continent was prosperous. Just within the territory of the Shengyan dynasty alone, there were hundreds of cities. The number of troops maintained in the Xingu continent was also about 30 million. This was an extremely terrifying and huge number. Therefore, it would not be easy for the 14th prince to be the emperor. Every day when he woke up, there were so many people counting on him to eat. Li Zongjiu was cultivating in his practice room. At the same time, he released his mental strength to search the continent again. He wanted to know where the divine sparrow realm would appear. No, the power of the Xingu continent might not be able to open the entrance to the divine sparrow realm. Li Zongjiu, who was in the middle of his cultivation, suddenly thought of this and immediately understood. He guessed that the divine sparrow realm might not open in the Xingu continent, but in the wilderness. Li Zongjiu had never reached the legendary sacred martial realm. Moreover, it was reasonable for the existence of the divine sparrow realm to appear in the untainted land. It seems that my trip to the untainted land has to be brought forward. Li Zongjiu thought to himself. Originally, Li Zongjiu wanted to wait until his strength reached the late supremacy realm before going to the untainted land to find his limit and breakthrough. But now, he had to bring forward his trip. In Qinggo City, 3 figures appeared in front of the governor's mansion. Go. The 3 of them were exquisitely dressed women. However, the woman in the middle looked very charming and had a beautiful figure. However, her face was covered by a thin veil, and her true appearance couldn't be seen clearly. However, the aura of these 3 women already gave off a feeling of being thousands of miles away. See Empress, with your status, they should be the ones to meet you. Who was beside her, quickly said. How could she do such a thing that lowered her status? It was simply damaging the reputation of the Empress of the Sea. If this matter were to spread, how would the Sea Empress be able to control the sea city within the 4 seas? This matter is not simple. Moreover, this is the land of the Shengyan dynasty. We need to follow their etiquette. The Sea Empress shook her head. According to the rules of the Shengyan dynasty, the Northern Ocean Island was considered the king island of the 4 seas region. Although the king of the Northern Ocean on the Northern Ocean Island was conferred by the Shengyan dynasty, in reality, the king of the Northern Ocean was not the ruler of the 4 seas region. The true controller was actually a woman. A legendary sea queen. In the 4 seas region, everyone respected the Sea Empress. She was the true ruler of the sea. Even with his revered status, he actually had to lower himself to seek an audience with the ruler of a small city. If the king of the Northern Ocean and the others had not acted impulsively and offended the people of the Shengyan dynasty, this situation would not have happened. Originally, the king of the Northern Ocean and the others were supposed to settle everything first. But now, they were directly imprisoned by the Sea Empress. They had to ask the Sea Empress to save them. This was truly a bad thing. When they returned, they would definitely punish these people. "Yes," Yu said. Then, she went forward and knocked on the door. The Vermilion Bird army behind the door opened the door and looked at the three people in front of them. "My master wants to see your commander." Yu took out a badge. This badge was the identity badge of the Sea Empress. Many forces naturally knew the importance of this identity badge. The Vermilion Bird army had all been trained. When they took the badge, they were slightly shocked. "Please wait a moment." Then, the Vermilion Bird army quickly handed the identity badge to Su Mo. When he saw the badge, Su Mo sighed in his heart. What was supposed to come still came. Originally, he still had a bit of hope in his heart. He thought that the king of the Northern Ocean and the others had come alone. He did not think that the Sea Empress of the Four Seas region would come personally. On the other side, the people he sent to the imperial court to report the situation still had not brought back any news. It would take at least 3 to 5 days for them to return. Su Mo asked people to welcome the Sea Empress and the others in. Although the identity of the Sea Empress was very high in the Four Seas region, it was not so high in the Four Seas region. At most, they would give her some face. "I did not think that the Sea Empress of the Four Seas region would come personally. I wonder what brings the Sea Empress here," Su Mo said. Although he was only a general of the Vermilion Bird army, his aura was definitely not weaker than the Sea Empress. Seeing this, the Sea Empress faintly smiled. "General Su, please give me some face and release the king of the Northern Ocean and the others. As for what happens next, I'll naturally communicate with the imperial family. I won't cause any trouble for General Su." The Sea Empress immediately said. Yu and the other two maids behind her were also very shocked and they heard the Sea Empress words. At the same time, they felt very displeased. Why did she have to be so humble to these people? With the Sea Empress noble identity, why did she have to be so nice to these people? If these people dared to torture them on the islands, they would have been pierced through with harpoons and left to dry on the deck until they were dried out. This was the rule of the sea country. Unfortunately, they were on land and in the hands of the Shengyan dynasty's Vermilion Bird army. The Sea Empress originally thought that if she spoke with her face, these people would not refuse. After all, her words carried a lot of weight. Although the sea country was united by faith and did not establish a true national system, the sea country was united by faith. However, if the 3,000 islands were to gather together, their power could not be underestimated. However, Su Mo shook his head awkwardly. He cupped his hands at the Sea Empress. If it was a normal person detained by the Vermilion Bird army, there would be no problem if the Sea Empress spoke. However, today's matter is not something we can decide. Su Mo said awkwardly. These people were detained by Li Zhongjiu. If they let them go without notifying Li Zhongjiu, it would be a slap to Li Zhongjiu's face. People would think that they didn't put Li Zhongjiu in their eyes. Moreover, this would be extremely disrespectful to Li Zhongjiu. Therefore, if they wanted to let them go, they had to first get Li Zhongjiu's approval. Even Su Mo couldn't make a decision on his own. Impudent. You dare to refuse the Sea Empress' personal request. What rank are you in the court? How dare you disrespect the Sea Empress like this? Seeing this, Yu also stepped forward and angrily rebuked. From her point of view, the Sea Empress had already given them enough face, but these people still didn't know how to respect her and thought too highly of themselves. They had to be taught a lesson. The Vermilion Bird army behind Su Mo also became serious. The Vermilion Bird divine crossbows in their hands were already drawn and could be fired at any moment. Smoky Leaf was also behind Su Mo. Smoky Leaf was Su Mo's personal guard. Even when facing someone he didn't know, he still dared to draw his sword. Stand down. Chapter 12:12. Stand down. The Sea Empress sternly reprimanded. General Su, is there any inconvenience? The people of the 4 sea regions all need a reason to be locked up in this dungeon, right? Imprisoning a prince without going through the joint trial of the 3 departments, are you able to bear the consequences? The Sea Empress was a little unhappy. She had come personally and asked for his release, yet he refused to let him go. He was not giving her any face at all. Of course I can't bear the consequences. However, there is another person in the city. All decisions need to be made with the approval of this person. Su Mo also signaled the Vermilion Bird Army behind him to put down their weapons. Who is it? The Sea Empress's eyes flashed as she asked. Li Zongjiu tried his best to adjust his aura. At the same time, he spread out the 212 mystery scriptures and released their aura. Through this method, he could find the location of the third 12 mystery scripture. Since the other party could use this method to find him, Li Zongjiu could also use the same method to find the other party's location. There is another Supreme Being expert in the city. Li Zongjiu searched for a while but to no avail. If he could not find the other party, he would have to destroy the underground palace the next day. Li Zongjiu was not in a hurry. The main reason he came out was to find Qi Yanran, but he had not found any traces of her. Furthermore, he had already guessed that Qi Yanran had appeared in the wilderness. Li Zongjiu was in a hurry to find her in the wilderness. As long as the distance between them was closer, Li Zongjiu was confident that he could sense the presence of the desolate heaven essence. This way, it would not be difficult to find Qi Yanran. Furthermore, even if Qi Yanran had obtained the inheritance from the Vermilion Bird Palace, it was normal for her strength to increase when she reappeared. However, it would be very difficult for her to kill her way out of the wilderness. Her life might even be in danger. That was the most important thing. During this search, he discovered that there was another Supreme Being expert in the city. With the strength of the Vermilion Bird Army, they would not be able to deal with this Supreme Being expert. It looks a little different from the Xingwu continent. Seems like they are experts from the 4 seas. Li Zongjiu immediately stopped what he was doing. With a flash, he appeared in the Castellan mansion. The sudden appearance of Li Zongjiu also gave everyone a shock. Only then did Su Mo tell the Sea Empress about Li Zongjiu's matter. This matter wasn't something that Su Mo could decide. Only with Li Zongjiu's approval could he do it. This is our Xingyan dynasty's state protector, Li Zongjiu. If the Sea Empress wants him, she will need the imperial tutor's approval. Su Mo immediately threw this problem to Li Zongjiu. The Sea Empress was clearly not a good person. She was only giving face to the Xingyan dynasty. Naturally, there was no need to offend her. Let's do both. Li Zongjiu naturally didn't have any scruples. First-grade sovereign. You still need to improve your strength. After Li Zongjiu sat down and glanced at the sea, he directly pointed out the hidden cultivation level of the Sea Empress. At first, the Sea Empress didn't think much of Li Zongjiu. She thought that the state protector was just a title. But now, with just a glance, she knew that she was hiding her strength. She was definitely not a simple person. Most importantly, the Sea Empress couldn't see through Li Zongjiu's strength. This showed how powerful this young man in front of her was. Although they came to the continent this time, they wanted to keep a low profile. After all, there were many experts on the continent. Just the Supremes alone were not few. It was hard to say how many there were in the Xingyan dynasty. If they didn't count Li Zongjiu, there were at least 2 of them. This didn't exclude the fact that there were some hidden experts. They hadn't revealed their strength until now, because there was no need for them to do so. Therefore, they usually hid and didn't make a move if they could. When one's cultivation reached this level, they had basically hidden their sharpness temporarily. They weren't like when they were young, where they had to make a name for themselves in the underworld. The deeper they hid, the more powerful they were. However, the Sea Empress' choice to keep a low profile was correct. Li Zhongjiu also liked to deal with these low-profile people. If they walked in with an arrogant face, Li Zhongjiu would beat them to death on the spot. Just like the people of the Northern Ocean King, they had to be arrogant in front of Li Zhongjiu. In the end, they didn't have a good ending. The Sea Empress greets Lord Imperial Tutor. The Sea Empress didn't panic. On the surface, she was naturally calm. She cupped her hands towards Li Zhongjiu. Not to mention whether or not he really had such ability, Li Zhongjiu was able to see through her cultivation and even gave her pointers. This made the Sea Empress uncertain. Imperial Tutor, the Sea Empress came here to take the Northern Ocean King and the others back. Su Mo explained the Sea Empress' identity to Li Zhongjiu. At the same time, he explained the Sea Empress' purpose for coming here. It was reasonable. Even Su Mo had the intention to let them go. Now, only Li Zhongjiu had nodded. Are you talking about the thugs that injured our brothers in the Vermilion Bird Army yesterday? Li Zhongjiu pondered for a moment and then blinked at Su Mo. Seeing Li Zhongjiu's expression, even Su Mo was confused. What did this mean? Although they had fought, they didn't injure them. As for the thugs, they had nothing to do with it. However, they were still troublemakers, so it was barely acceptable to call them thugs. It was just that Su Mo found it hard to understand Li Zhongjiu's intentions. However, Li Zhongjiu's temperament had always been eccentric. Whatever he said, he would do his best to comply with him. Since Li Zhongjiu said that he was a thug, then he would just treat him as a thug. Yes, Su Mo replied. Well, you see, madam, it's not that I don't want to let them go, but if I hand them over to you, the broken tables and chairs, the bumps on the walls, the flowers and plants on the ground. What do you think I should do with all these losses? Who do you think I should look for to settle this account? Although Li Zhongjiu's cultivation had mostly recovered, his temperament hadn't changed. If Kun Erisher and the others were here, they would already know what Li Zhongjiu wanted to do after he sat down and spoke politely. Sure enough, the words had already reached this point. Although the Sea Empress had lived on the island for a long time, she could understand the meaning of these subtexts quite clearly. As long as Imperial Tutor is willing to hand them over to us and teach them well, all the compensation will be paid by me. Well said. Su Mo, how much did we calculate before? It should be 200 billion purple yuan, right? Chapter 12-13. 2. What? Su Mo blinked her large eyes. At this moment, she even felt that she had heard wrongly. 200 billion. What kind of number was this? This kind of number had never appeared in her world before. Therefore, she didn't react for a moment. However, when she looked at Li Zhongjiu suspiciously, she received a nod from Li Zhongjiu. She also gulped. Yes, 200 billion. Cough, cough. Even though Su Mo's performance in the Vermilion Bird Army had been outstanding, she still couldn't help but feel guilty when she said such a serious lie. She quickly called for someone to bring over a cup of tea. When she looked at Li Zhongjiu again, she realized that Li Zhongjiu didn't look uncomfortable at all. Could it be that Li Zhongjiu often did this kind of thing? You are extorting us. You, who was beside the Sea Empress, couldn't stand it anymore. Li Zhongjiu was clearly taking advantage of the situation. 200 billion. No matter what 200 billion was, it definitely wasn't a small number. How could it cost so much just to let a few people go? Even if they were kidnapped for ransom, it was impossible for there to be so many of them. This was simply illogical. Could it be that the money in the four seas was blown by the wind? What's more, although the Ocean Empress was the protector of the four seas, she didn't care much about money. Therefore, it was impossible for her to take out so much savings. It was obvious that she didn't want to let them go and was making things difficult for them. Back down, you are being impudent, the Sea Empress berated you, The Sea Empress scolded you, Immediately, you, pouted and retreated. However, she stood behind the Sea Empress and glared at Li Zongjiu with a hateful gaze. This young man looked refined, but she didn't expect him to be so hateful. She really wanted to beat him up. If they were on any other island in the four seas, she, Zhang Xiaoyu, would definitely let the person before her have a taste of her fist. Although Zhang Xiaoyu and the other woman, Gu Sisi, were said to be the Sea Empress maidservants, they had actually received the Sea Empress teachings. It would not be an exaggeration to call them disciples. Moreover, their cultivation was stronger than their peers. Their talents were also excellent. Coupled with their intelligence, they were able to stay by the Sea Empress side. If they were not so excellent, it would be difficult for them to stay by the Sea Empress side. Therefore, Zhang Xiaoyu was quite unhappy in her heart. She couldn't wait to kick Li Zongjiu away. However, the Sea Empress herself was very clear. With Li Zongjiu's status and strength, he didn't care much about worldly possessions like money. It was only because of his habits that he asked for a ransom. This kind of compensation could be exchanged for a person's life, so it was naturally a very worthwhile thing. Therefore, the Sea Empress nodded slightly. A mere 200 billion purple yuan was a lot in the eyes of ordinary people. However, in the eyes of experts at their level, this was just a matter of snapping their fingers. Since I've said that we will compensate for all your losses, we will humbly accept it no matter how much it is. It's just that we left in a hurry and didn't bring so many purple yuan with us. I'll put these 3 deep-sea frosty night crystals here as collateral. Deep-sea cold night crystals. When Zhang Xiaoyu and Gu Sisi heard the Sea Empress decision, they wished they could tie her up and bring her back. This was too easy for that brat. The deep-sea cold night crystal was only born once every 10 million miles of the sea. It had the effect of helping people with ice attribute cultivation to become gods. It was simply a divine object that people on land yearned for even in their dreams. How could she take it out so easily and give it to a shameless person like him? Such a thing was absolutely unacceptable. Zhang Xiaoyu and Gu Sisi were so anxious that they clenched their fists in anger. They naturally did not dare to refute the Sea Empress' words. After all, they had been reprimanded many times. However, Zhang Xiaoyu was thinking that if Li Zongjiu dared to take these things away, she would definitely use her fists to make Li Zongjiu obediently hand them over. The 3 transparent stones that looked like ice crystals lay in the Sea Empress' palm. Moreover, the Sea Empress had also used her own yuan qi to restrict the power emitted from the stone. If she did not control it, the aura emitted from the deep-sea cold night crystal alone would be enough to freeze the entire Qinggo city. This crystal was taken from the cold air of the bottom of the sea 30,000 meters below the sea. The terrifying power it contained was not something that ordinary people could withstand. Although Su Mo did not know what this thing was and had never even heard of it, he had already felt a deep threat when he first saw it. If the other party released this power, it would directly cause extremely terrifying consequences. At the same time, Su Mo could also see that the other party was testing him. She was testing whether Li Zongjiu had the strength to take this thing away. Li Zongjiu stretched out his hand and the deep-sea cold night crystals in the Sea Empress' palm floated into the air and fell into Li Zongjiu's hand like 3 luminous pearls. The Sea Empress saw this and immediately withdrew her yuan qi. Suddenly, a terrifying power erupted from the 3 deep-sea cold night crystals. Boom! However, this power appeared in less than 100,000th of a second before it was easily suppressed by Li Zongjiu. This is good stuff from the deep sea. I didn't expect the Sea Empress to be so generous. Alright, General Su, let them go. Li Zongjiu greeted her and then kept the thing with a smile. In his previous life, Li Zhongjiu had naturally dealt with people from the four seas. At that time, she was not the Sea Empress in front of him. "What's your name?" Li Zhongjiu looked at Zhang Xiaoyu, who had just stood up and wanted to hit him. "My name is Zhang Xiaoyu." At this moment, Zhang Xiaoyu was already gnashing her teeth at Li Zhongjiu. She hated him to the core, yet he still wanted to provoke her. If he had the ability, he should go out and fight her one-on-one. Oh, good luck. The next Sea Empress was Zhang Xiaoyu. In his impression, Zhang Xiaoyu seemed to be very stingy. In his previous life, Li Zhongjiu was too lazy to bother with Zhang Xiaoyu. He originally wanted to take the deep-sea cold night crystals from the four seas, but who knew that he would encounter such strong resistance from this girl? She even had a feeling that she would rather die than submit. In the end, Li Zhongjiu also quietly sneaked in and then stole the collection of the four seas over the years. This angered Zhang Xiaoyu so much that she chased Li Zhongjiu all over the world. Later on, Li Zhongjiu rarely set foot in the four seas, thinking that there was someone waiting to kill him. Of course, he wasn't afraid. However, there was no need for him to fight everywhere he went. Therefore, Li Zhongjiu avoided it as much as he could. He did not expect to encounter it in advance in this life. When the Sea Empress saw Li Zhongjiu grab the 3 deep-sea cold night crystals in his hand, she was already silent. "You can take anything else, but with just this hand, without even activating the slightest bit of Yuan Qi, you can directly take the deep-sea cold night crystals. This kind of strength is naturally not to be underestimated. This is definitely not a fraud, but a person with real strength." Su Mo ordered people to capture the Northern Ocean King and the others and bring them over. When the Northern Ocean King and the others saw the Sea Empress, they immediately knelt down in front of the Sea Empress. At the same time, they wept with snot and tears. "Sea Empress, you have to uphold justice for us." Chapter 12-14. Make the decision. Make the decision, my ass. Go back to the Northern Ocean Island immediately. You are not needed here. The Sea Empress said with a cold face. Her tone was extremely cold. If you were not arrogant and domineering, you would have been caught and given such a good opportunity to blackmail me. Sooner or later, I will settle this account with these people. The Northern Ocean King heard the anger in the Sea Empress' heart and did not dare to say anything more. He quickly admitted defeat and bid farewell to the Sea Empress and left Qingdao City. From this, it could be seen that the Sea Empress had a strong prestige in the four seas. However, in front of Li Zhongjiu, it naturally did not work. "Since you have released the person, Your Highness, do you have other things to do?" Su Mo looked at Hai Ho in front of him. For such a big shot to visit Qingdao City all of a sudden, he must have something important to do. It was definitely not as simple as just asking for a person. Even if they did not want the person, they would release the person soon enough. "We were guided by the Sea God to come here to look for the long-lost item of the Sea God Palace," the Sea Empress said. It turned out that this trip was to look for treasures. The only place to look for treasures was the mysterious underground palace that had just appeared. Naturally, they did not know what was in the underground palace. However, these stone-armored people came out from the underground ruins. "Okay, I am in a hurry. Let's go. Let's get rid of the things in the underground palace first so that we don't have to kill people again." Li Zhongjiu immediately stood up and said. Originally, Li Zhongjiu was also prepared to break into the mysterious underground palace tonight and kill all these stone-armored people to see if he could find the 12 great mystery scriptures. It did not matter if he could not find them. Anyway, he had 2 books in his hands. He would go to the untainted land and find Yen Ran. Without the 2 books in Li Zhongjiu's hands, the stone-armored people could not do anything. "Imperial Tutor Li, do you want to break into the underground palace tonight?" the Sea Empress asked. "Of course. Don't worry. For the sake of these 3 books, I will not snatch your things." Whether you can find them or not depends on your own ability. Li Zongjiu said. He couldn't go too far. He had just extorted a large sum of money from the other party, so how could he snatch the other party's treasure in the blink of an eye? Thus, he decided to sell the other party a name. Thank you, Imperial Tutor Li. When the Sea Empress heard this, she was relieved. However, if Li Zongjiu wanted to snatch it, the Sea Empress would not take half a step back. This thing was related to the survival of the four seas. Otherwise, the Sea Empress would not be so cautious. It was a matter of great importance, so if some things could be solved peacefully, it would be best to solve it peacefully. When she heard that Li Zongjiu was going to intervene in the underground palace, Sea Empress couldn't help but feel nervous. However, Li Zongjiu's attitude changed her opinion of the young man in front of her. To be able to possess such a cultivation base, Li Zongjiu's background was also worth a good guess. His background was definitely not simple. It was even very likely that he was from the sect behind the Shengyan dynasty. She couldn't afford to offend him. Then I'll immediately bring some people and go together. Su Mo said. No need. Just follow that girl. If you see anything on the road, you can keep it. Li Zongjiu pointed at Sun Yi behind Su Mo. Sun Yi, who was named, widened her eyes. She couldn't believe that she was chosen by Li Zongjiu. It seemed that she had left a deep impression in Li Zongjiu's heart. This caused Sun Yi to feel extremely excited. She was secretly delighted. At the very least, she had to perform better and not let Li Zongjiu down. However, Li Zongjiu had absolutely no expectations for Sun Yi. After all, Li Zongjiu only wanted to find someone to store things. If there were some good things, one person wouldn't be able to carry them. What's more, the other party had 3 people, so she had to prepare 3 people as well. Only then would it be fair. Li Zongjiu wouldn't bully them. Okay, Tan Fei. When I'm not here, the Vermilion Bird Army will be under your command. Su Mo handed the general token sword to another Vermilion Bird Army member. Among the many subordinates, this woman was quite capable, so it was more reassuring to leave it to her. Yes, General. Tan Fei took the general token sword and nodded. Thus, the 6 of them set off. They used the Scarlet Bird as their mode of transportation. During the process, Su Mo also looked at the map in his hand and rushed into the Stone Plains forest. 20 miles ahead, there's a huge sinkhole. There's a stone door at the bottom of the sinkhole. These stone-armored people all crawled out of the sinkhole. Su Mo said. Li Zongjiu and the others quickly rushed into the sky above the Stone Plains forest and saw the sinkhole that Su Mo mentioned. The entrance to the underground palace isn't low-key at all. Li Zongjiu couldn't help but sigh. Below them, they could see hundreds of stone-armored people squatting in the sinkhole. They seemed to be resting, but also seemed to be recovering their strength. However, they gave off a strange feeling, as if they were performing some kind of ritual. So many. There are also stone-armored people that are 10 feet tall. Su Mo and Sun Yi both widened their eyes when they saw the number of stone-armored people. They clearly felt that it was unbelievable. Just now, they looked from afar, but when they looked carefully, the number of stone-armored people seemed to exceed 200. Just the stone-armored people that were 10 feet tall numbered more than 5. If these stone-armored men attacked Qinggo City at the same time, the city would be destroyed in an instant. An army of more than 100,000 would be easily trampled to death. They weren't even on the same level. To ordinary people, the strength of these stone-armored people was comparable to the strength of a demon god. Ocean Empress, let me go. Zhang Xiaoyu saw the situation below and did not hesitate to ask for a battle. At the same time, she looked at Li Zongjiu with a provocative gaze. She did not believe that Li Zongjiu's strength could be so terrifying. She guessed that the Ocean Empress was just giving face to Li Zongjiu's master. Okay, you go and have a try. The Ocean Empress nodded. Immediately, Zhang Xiaoyu's eyes were filled with a trace of pride and provocation. Then, she jumped and landed with an ice-blue long spear in her hand. As soon as her body landed, thousands of feet of ice immediately surged up. Boom! The terrifying power of ice also broke the silence of the night. Su Mo and the others who were sitting on the scarlet flame bird opened their mouths when they saw Zhang Xiaoyu jump down. They wanted to warn her that it was dangerous down there, but after seeing Zhang Xiaoyu make a move, they gave up the idea of warning her. With such tyrannical strength, there was no need to warn her. She was simply a monster. However, they were still able to accept Zhang Xiaoyu's strength. After all, before this, they had seen an even more terrifying monster. Chapter 12-15. Zhang Xiaoyu's skills were also extremely sharp. As the ice spear in her hand continuously pierced out, she directly froze the stone-armored people in front of her into ice cubes. Then, with a gentle strike, she destroyed the frozen stone-armored people. The long spear in her hand was a good weapon. Zhang Xiaoyu probably vented all her anger on the stone-armored people in front of her. The terrifying power that kept falling down also displayed a terrifying and exciting massacre in this sinkhole. The Sea Empress took advantage of this gap to secretly observe Li Zongjiu. She found that Li Zongjiu seemed to be completely unconcerned. He directly sat on the back of the scarlet flame bird and seemed to not care about Zhang Xiaoyu's performance at all. Naturally, it was also because of Li Zongjiu's powerful strength. This made the Sea Empress think more highly of him. Li Zongjiu's strength was absolutely terrifying. She didn't know if she would be able to see Li Zongjiu fight today. Suddenly, Li Zongjiu opened his eyes and looked down, as if attracted by something. The Sea Empress saw Li Zongjiu's strange movement and was slightly surprised. The next moment, a figure suddenly rushed out of the sinkhole. It directly rushed towards Zhang Xiaoyu. This figure seemed to be glowing with a golden light. Zhang Xiaoyu waved her hand and got rid of the stone-armored people in front of her. There were scattered stones on the ground. Suddenly, she felt a shocking aura coming towards her. Bang! Like a giant diamond beast, Zhang Xiaoyu's long spear slammed into her. In the next second, she was sent flying without any pause. Her figure instantly flew out. Bang! Zhang Xiaoyu's figure flew dozens of rounds in the air before stabilizing her body. When her feet landed on the ground, they directly pierced through the ground under her feet. 2 cracks spread out. However, just as the figure came to a stop, the figure from before leaped out of the sinkhole. The large golden saber in his hand spun in a circle and hacked down. Clang! The weapons of both sides were equally matched. However, this collision directly forced Zhang Xiaoyu out. Golden armor. When Su Mo and the others saw the golden-armored stone golem appear from the scarlet flame bird, they were shocked. Yun Fengqi is right, there are still golden-armored stone golems behind this underground palace. The golden-armored golem that appeared in front of him was nearly 2 meters tall. Although it was very tall, it wasn't too exaggerated. It was closer to the base of a human. Moreover, the armor on its body wasn't the color of stone. It was a genuine golden armor. Perhaps it might not be effective in terms of defense, but it was a symbol of strength. The golden-armored stone golem was clearly more agile, and even seemed to possess spiritual intelligence. Its movements were rather nimble and smooth, and its moves were rather fierce. In comparison, Zhang Xiaoyu seemed to be unable to withstand more than a few moves. After a series of exchanges, Zhang Xiaoyu was also knocked back repeatedly. The surrounding ground had long been destroyed beyond recognition. As long as the weapon fell to the ground, a terrifying destructive force would sweep out. Another saber slashed down, and this time, the long spear in Zhang Xiaoyu's hand was knocked away. Just as the golden-armored stone golem was about to slash Zhang Xiaoyu into 2 halves, 2 strands of cold qi turned into ropes and bound the golden-armored stone golem's body. The other maid of the Sea Empress, Gu Sisi, made her move. The two girls joined forces and suppressed the golden armored stone golem. Seeing the two girls playing with the stone golem so happily, Li Zongjio also signaled to them. Let's go in directly. It will be dawn by the time they finish fighting. Obviously, Li Zongjio wasn't interested in waiting any longer. How long would they have to wait? Li Zongjio wasn't their babysitter. If they overestimated themselves, Li Zongjio wouldn't do anything. Moreover, there was a powerful Sea Empress here, so there was even less to worry about. Ah! Are we going to be the early bird? Su Mo was stunned for a moment. In Su Mo's opinion, everyone came together, so they should help each other. Are you stupid? I brought you here to snatch the treasure. How can we waste so much time on this? Hurry up, before they are free. Li Zongjio said unceremoniously. He didn't even bother to hide his shamelessness. Most of the stone golems had been dealt with by Zhang Xiaoyu. Now, the two girls had exhausted all their energy to deal with the golden armored stone golem in front of them. Immediately, Zhang Xiaoyu and Li Zongjio saw Li Zongjio's group sneaking away and taking advantage of this gap to sneak into the underground palace. Zhang Xiaoyu was so angry that she stomped her feet. How can there be such a shameless person? Reaping the fruits of others' labor and taking advantage of the situation. Despicable, shameless. Zhang Xiaoyu's displeasure and anger towards Li Zongjio could no longer be described with words. Even Gu Sisi, who had always been very calm and indifferent to everything, had a trace of disdain flash through her eyes. She didn't expect this person called Li Zongjio to be such an unjust person, such a despicable person. After all, they had come together. Even if they weren't companions, he shouldn't have used such a method to sneak in and take advantage of them. If such a thing were to happen in the underworld, it would definitely be despised by thousands. However, although the two of them were angry, there was nothing they could do. The golden armored stone golem in front of them didn't give them any chance. After a fierce battle, he could clearly feel a considerable amount of suffering. It would take a lot of effort to deal with the golden armored stone golem in front of them. The Sea Empress obviously couldn't bear to watch any longer. Hundreds of meters in the air, she directly slammed her palm down. Suddenly, there was a feeling of turbulent sea water. Immediately, the golden armored stone golem was easily crushed. Boom! The powerful force directly shattered the golden armored stone golem into pieces. Thank you, Sea Empress. Zhang Xiaoyu and Gu Sisi were also panting, their chests heaving up and down. They had already encountered such a terrifying enemy before even entering the underground palace. If they entered the underground palace, they didn't know what kind of danger they would encounter. That shameless person, I really hope he dies in the underground palace. Although Zhang Xiaoyu was a little exhausted, she was still full of hatred towards Li Zongjio. She cursed Li Zongjio for not being able to walk out of the underground palace. Follow me into the underground palace. The most important thing now is to find the Sea God Scepter that we lost. The Sea God Scepter. In the past, the Saint Martial Great Emperor led thousands of experts to conquer the north and south. Wherever they passed, all became the territory of the Saint Martial Great Emperor. At the same time, almost all the supreme treasures were collected by the Saint Martial Great Emperor as trophies. Now that the Sea Empresses of the Four Seas had arrived, some of the other ancient forces and forces that were once conquered by the Sacred Martial Emperor would also come to search for their lost treasures. Yes, Sea Empress. Zhang Xiaoyu and Gu Sisi looked at each other. They also circulated their yuan power and calmed the turbulent yuan power in their bodies. Then, they followed the Sea Empress and walked through the stone door below. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.